Hello and welcome back to the S&S Football Podcast. We are back again a little bit later on in the week. We usually do this on a Monday or Tuesday, but it's been a hectic week for the pair of us. So we've had to leave it till now to get sort of this game week review done. But we've wanted to get it done, especially me, for one standout result for me. But I'm sure Morgan would love to talk through the results as well and the upcoming fixtures. So again, Morgan is joining us again. Morgan, firstly, how are you?
All right, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Just still at home, and that's about it. All to be said, to be honest. So if you are watching, as always, we'll say this throughout the stream, I'm sure. Please make sure if you're enjoying the stuff, you do hit a like on the video. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. We're on our way to 50 subs. I think we're 10 away now, 11 away. So please, if we could hit 50 subs, that would be fantastic. And as always, share the videos and comment anything in the comments that you want us to talk about over sort of the recent game weeks, upcoming game weeks, players in general, anything to do with football, or just anything in general. Let us know in the comments, and we will cover that and answer your questions. Morgan, before we jump straight into the results and the upcoming fixtures of previous weekend and the weekend coming up. I think it's relevant that we talk about the breaking news sort of come out today. Now, we spoke about this just a minute ago before we went live about Chris Wilder. Sky Sports saying that he has left his role at Sheffield United, but other media says he's expected to or he's going to, and it's Sheffield United haven't confirmed it yet. But we'll go with this for a minute. Chris Wilder is set to leave his role at Sheffield United, obviously first team manager there. He's been there for 5 years, taking them from League One all the way through to Premier League. Fantastic season last season, bordered on Europe until obviously Project Restart, and they kind of went downhill. And then this season, they lost, obviously, Dean Henderson back to Man United and haven't really got going, have they? And, they've struggled at times, but picked up some big wins, obviously one against United, which we'll try not to talk about. Is this surprising, them possibly getting rid of Chris Wilder? Firstly, do you think it's Chris Wilder being sacked, or do you think it's Chris Wilder possibly saying, I want to go? Which way around do you think it is, and is it surprising?
It's definitely Wilder wants to go. What Wilder is Sheffield through and through. He loved that club. He brought them from League Two to the Premier League. Phenomenal achievement. He's done so much. He's built a squad of players that are just so bang average, let's be honest here, and we've seen it this season, but what he did with them last year was nothing short of unreal. And I know two Blades fans personally, and they've said that they've got a lot of problems at the top end. And I think this is the first sign of what could be a really bad demise and decline for Sheffield United, because I would have backed Chris Wilder next season to bring him straight back up. And now he's gone. I think it might be very similar to a Bournemouth situation where Eddie Howe walked away from the club, and Bournemouth are looking at potentially making the playoffs, but they're struggling at the moment. And the Championship's not an easy league, and I think Wilder knows it inside out. He spent 2 to 3 seasons in it before the season that they were phenomenal and got them up. So I worry that this is the start of a really, really tough period for Blades fans, and it's almost gone from hero to zero for them. I really do feel for them, and Wilder wouldn't have left without a really good excuse to. He's walked away from that job from something happening. That's a reaction to something. What that is, we don't know. But look, when it gets to I imagine it will get released at some point over the summer, probably. But I'd love to know a Blades fan's verdict on this, because I don't think I'd be far off what they're thinking. I think they're shocked, to be honest, at this.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I remember, like I told you off air beforehand, that I can't remember when I read it, whether it's beginning of the season or when times start getting tough for them, loss after loss after loss. They came, I think the chairman come out and said that, even if we go down, Chris Wilder would still be our manager. So that can only lead me to believe that this is, Wilder's decision himself and not, a sacking. Because I think, like you mentioned, he could be, if they were to go down, I mean, you do look at their squad, it's not exact, you wouldn't look at it and say many of them players are Premier League players, a lot of them are still Championship players, and he'd be the guy to bring them back up. Very similar to possibly, you look at West Brom and, you know, Bilic being sacked. If they had gone down, okay, it's not the best for them, but that's the manager to then get them back up to have another crack at it. So yeah, I think it is quite surprising and quite shocking, and I don't think, like you mentioned, it's him being sacked because you know, I think, like you said, he loves the club. So yeah, it's I think it's a bit of a shock to obviously Sheffield United fans, but I think to the Premier League in general, because I don't think they would have expected it to happen now. I mean, obviously, if Sheffield United did want to stay up and they wanted to, you know, stay in this league, they would have got a manager possibly in January, so he had a window to get some players in or something, but that's never been the case. And I think they're always going to stick with Wilder. But at the minute, it's not 100% that he is left. So Sky Sports says he has. Sheffield United haven't confirmed it yet, so we're still waiting for official confirmation. But it does look very likely that this is the end outcome really for Chris Wilder at Sheffield United, which is a little bit sad. But, you know, if he does move on, we wish him the best of luck for wherever he ends up next, because I think could be a few jobs up and coming in the summer, maybe even beforehand. Who knows? He could be roped into a job to save someone's bacon at the end of the season. You never know. So yeah, that's our first bit of news. Before we move on to this first result, one comment already. Toby, all right, boys, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in again, mate. We will have you on soon. Yeah, we will have Toby. We'll have you on again soon, mate. It's always a pleasure. So, yeah, thanks for the comment and for tuning in. As always, any topics you want us to talk about, list them in the comments. Toby, it's a good job you're not a City fan anymore, because, yeah, that might not have ended well for you in this episode. We'll start with the first game of last game week. Burnley won, Arsenal won. Burnley has scored the most outrageous goal in this game. And does that goal sort of sum up Arsenal a little bit? Am I right in saying that?
So I recently have been having a few discussions with someone on our course who is an Arsenal fan, and they believe at the moment that Arteta and Arsenal are playing decent football. But the thing that I had to put across was this mistake keeps happening. Now, because we've had the beauty of filming this on a Friday, yesterday in the Europa League, again, the exact same scenario, Leno passing the ball, a hospital pass to Ceballos, El Arabi nicks it and sticks it in the back of the net. This time, Xhaka hits it against Chris Wood. The problem is with Arsenal is that it's quite clear what Arteta wants to do. But in the situation like that, just get rid of it. Just get rid of the ball and reset. Like, there is no need to play your way out there. Burnley have put the high press on because they know that Arsenal are going to try and play their way out fancily. And ultimately, it's cost them a really comfortable 2 points, because before that, they were really comfortable in the game. And Xhaka making that mistake. Since Granit Xhaka has been in the Premier League, 8 errors leading to goals. That's the most in the Premier League since he's been there. And for me, that sums up Granit Xhaka. He's not good enough for Arsenal. He's not consistent enough. And he has this mistake in him. And I think it was someone on the AFTV, like, as much as people want to dismiss that channel, I think it was Lee Judges said you can't trust this team because every player in it has a mistake in them. And that's how I would sum up Arsenal at the moment. The performances are getting better, but they've got that mistake in them. And until them mistakes stop, and for me, they get in better players who fit the system, I think they're really going to struggle. I do, because you look at their team, and I still think that it is so average. Like Cedric and Bellerin for your right backs, even their centre backs, like Pablo Mari's impressed me personally, but Gabriel hasn't really been convincing since he's come back. Rob Holding, I don't really rate. Like, Arsenal are absolutely miles off where they were under Wenger, and that's why I think some fans are now starting to go, I'd have Wenger back in a heartbeat because he worked wonders. The bloke worked wonders, honestly. But yeah, if we're talking about this game specifically, um, just a really poor goal to concede, and I think it's both Leno and Xhaka's fault. Leno shouldn't be giving him the ball there. Leno can see the game. Leno can see the whole pitch. Xhaka can't. Xhaka can only see what's to the side of him. So, and then a bizarre decision to try and caress it around Chris Wood, who is an absolute unit of a bloke. So, yeah, 2 points dropped for Arsenal. 2 points dropped.
Yeah, I think with Arsenal, we can see what Arteta wants to do, and it's very much the similar blueprint to what Guardiola's doing at City. Obviously, as we all are aware of the history that them two have got together at City. But where I see Arteta possibly not succeeding in trying to lay down that plan for Arsenal to play good football is with Guardiola in his first season. He tried it, realised the players he had weren't good enough, and then he got given, 250 million to then spend on his players, and then obviously he got 100 points next season. You do not see Arsenal going out and saying to Arteta, there's 200 million, go and get about 4 or 5 players that will suit our system. They'll give him maybe 50 million to spend, and then whatever he recoups from players, he can spend as well. And that's why I think it's going to take so long for Arteta to succeed if he gets given the time, because the finances aren't going to be there to get the same players that Pep did at City. It's similar system, similar blueprint, but the financial side is Arsenal would have to uncover so many hidden gems for like 5-10 million if they wanted quick success in that style of football, because they're not going to get the money to bring in the big players. I mean, Pep's second sort of transfer window brought in 3 fullbacks that were like 30-40 million each. Danilo, Walker, and who else did he bring in? He brought in one more.
Mendy.
That's it, Mendy. So that's half of Arsenal's budget. Them 3 players that he brought in. I can't remember who else he brought in that window as well, Pep. But that's why I think it's going to take so long for Arsenal to get back to the top with this style of football, because they're losing players. Like, I know Ozil hasn't played in a while, but they've lost Ozil. They didn't get anything back for him. Look at Ramsey when they sold him; they didn't get anything back for him. Sanchez, they didn't get anything back for him. And like, they were 3 really good players for Arsenal in this recent, 5-year period. So in terms of recouping money for players, they're not getting a lot. Kolasinac has gone pretty much for free. Mustafi, I think, pretty much went for free in January. But Odegaard's alone. Are they going to pay out to make that permanent? Real Madrid going to keep him? Who knows? So I think Arsenal were a long way off being back at the top unless they get their transfer business unbelievably spot on with a lot of cheap but effective signings. Like, if you look at Koufal, for example, before you come in, if you look at Koufal at West Ham, they cost him, 5 million? I know he's 28, 29, whatever, still prime of his career. But Arsenal would have to find about 6 of them, go straight into the first team, and then they'd be able to play football like that, if you know what I mean. That's the quality of signing they need to find about 6 times to start playing well and being back at the top.
Arsenal's recruitment is something that I think people are beginning to now look into. I look at the Emi Martinez transfer. That is a shambles. Look at where Villa are now. Because for me, Emi Martinez is one of the main reasons as to why Villa are sitting ahead of Arsenal in this league. And whoever decided that transfer to keep Leno over Martinez, I would love someone to come and tell me that Bernd Leno is better than Emi Martinez. I would love it. Because I tell you what, I haven't seen Emi Martinez once this season make a mistake from playing out from the back. And Emi uses his feet all the time. I think they made a massive mistake in letting Martinez go, because for me, Martinez is the best keeper in the league, and I'll keep saying that. You watch him week in, week out, he's formidable in goal. And Leno is just so poor. Like, he makes good saves, don't get me wrong. No one's denying that he's a great shot stopper. But he's not good with the ball at his feet. I watch Arsenal quite a bit, and he makes mistakes. Granit Xhaka for 30 million. What a rip-off that is. You know, Tierney, for me, and Odegaard have been their best bits of business in the last 4 or 5 years, and that says a lot. I'd
You can
probably
probably
say
put
Aubameyang as
Aubameyang in
well.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, Aubameyang as well, if we're going to put that time frame on it. And I'm maybe make an argument for Lacazette. But look at Pepe. Like, recently, Pepe has been okay. But Nicolas
Not
Pepe,
72 million, is he?
72 million quid for a guy that at the moment can't even get in the team ahead of Willian. Like, it's a shambles. I've said it before. Arsenal are healing axe wounds with plasters. And all them plasters are going to do is rip off, and the bigger wound is just going to come out. It's the same story every single window. And unfortunately for them, they're in a loophole until they get rid of Stan Kroenke at that club and they get a new owner who cares about the club and prioritizes Arsenal and doesn't just want to use Arsenal as a cash cow for his teams in America. I think it's the Rams, the LA Rams. They're just going to be in a loophole. So, like we could be here for years talking about Arsenal, to be honest, but their recruitment has been shocking. And if you compare it to someone like Villa, who have gone from 17th, barely surviving, to now 9th in the Premier League, 3 points off Liverpool, and we go ahead of them tonight if we win, you put that into perspective when we've just nicked their goalkeeper, and who has now turned into the best goalkeeper in the league. So, shambolic recruitment, to be honest, from Arsenal.
Look, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, and we're now obviously further down in the season. But at the time of Arsenal selling you Martinez, and I think they bought him Runarsson for what, 1.3 million or something. I actually looked at it and thought, do you know what? That is good business by Arsenal, because why would you have a keeper, a second choice keeper that you're not going to use on your bench, who is 20 million or however much you paid for him, where you could get some other bloke in for 1.3 who's going to do the exact same job because you know Leno's going to be a number one. Hindsight now is, yes, they should have kept Martinez. I think we're all in agreement of that. But yeah, I didn't think it was a bad deal at the time, getting 25 million for him.
I think the thing that confused most Arsenal fans, though, is that when Emmy came into the team, he was immaculate. He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. And I saw so many Arsenal fans going, look, I don't know about Leno, Martinez has been quality. The thing that made Arsenal let go of Martinez is that obviously Leno's been doing it longer. And if it hadn't have worked out with Martinez, I don't think the club would have wanted to have took the flap, personally, for letting Leno go rather than Martinez. But yeah, shocking transfer. I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but you look at it now, it was a bad deal in terms of giving a team that has the potential to be competing with them with a bit more financial backing in Villa. You've given them a massive step towards going to Europe now. So,
yeah, no, I think you're spot on. To be honest, I don't think there'd be many Arsenal fans saying that now it's a good deal to sell Martinez, especially to Villa, who seem to be now a top half of the table rival. So there you go. That's your Villa compliment from me, mate. We have another guest that we are going to add into the stream. He's been on before. We have to give him a new title so I don't get confused with Morgan on stream now. Chelsea Morgan is here. How are you, lad?
I'm good, thanks. Good to be back. I've been here for a while.
You haven't. It's a pleasure to have you on as always. Just quickly, we spoke about this at the beginning of the stream before you come on. The Chris Wilder news. Obviously, none of us, I don't think, are experts at Sheffield United, but we're all aware of where they were last season and where they are now, and obviously relegation, which pretty much looms on them. It's not confirmed. Sky confirmed it, but Sheffield United haven't. It's a difficult one to say whether it's gone through or not. Surprising, and Do you think he's walking away, or do you think he's getting the boot?
Well, I've seen rumours linking him with the Celtic job today, and that's the reason that he could potentially be walking away. But if it's not, if it is the other way around, and Sheffield United have booted him out after he has single-handedly taken that club from League One to the Premier League within 3 years, it's completely wrong. But it does sum up everything that's wrong with modern football, in the sense that no matter the success you have, no matter what you do with what you've got, if you have a falling out with the owner, which is what apparently has happened, or you're not getting the results for a period of time, you're gonna be gone. There's no room for sentimentality anymore, and we kind of saw a similar thing with Neil Lennon as well. People and clubs, particularly at the top ends, they don't care if you're a fan, they don't care if you're a club legend. All they care about is how much money they can get in their back pocket.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. And like I said to Villa Morgan at the beginning of the stream, I said I saw something either beginning of the season or when they started losing a few games, and their chairman, I think, come out and said that even if we get relegated, Chris Wilder will still be our manager. So I think this is why it comes a bit of a shock to me, because I'm like, well, I highly doubt they would have possibly have gone back on their word. But it is interesting you mentioned the Celtic job, because obviously Steven Gerrard has won the league with Rangers, which is a fantastic achievement. A name linked with the Celtic job, which could make that derby even more interesting than what it is now next season, is Frank Lampard. Is that a possibility that he ends up at Celtic? And then you got, not only have you got Rangers v Celtic, you've also got Gerrard v Lampard in managerial form.
It would be tasty. It would be really, really tasty if you had Lampard and Gerrard, who have notoriously been these two rivals in the England midfield, or their playing careers. I think it would be a good move for him. And I've, in hindsight, looked back at when he got given the Chelsea job and what happened leading up to it. And getting him the Chelsea job was a kind of a romance thing. We'd had the falling out with Sarri. It was kind of, we needed the club to feel good again. We needed a rebound, and he was our rebound manager. So we used him to feel good again, and now we've got, and then you move on to another manager who's going to take you to the next level. If he goes to Scotland, he can do similar to what Gerrard's done. When you go to Scotland, you're out of the English media. You can kind of make mistakes. You're not under as much scrutiny. If things go wrong, you can hide it a little bit better because you haven't got the watching eye of a global audience. And then you can do what Gerrard's done this year and win the league spectacularly. Then come back to England and be the real deal. With Lampard, if he'd stayed at Derby for a couple of years, he probably could have got them in the Premier League, had that learning stage in the Championship. Comes to the Premier League, the real deal, and shone. So I do think it would be a good move for him.
Yeah, I think I would like to see it. I think it'd be a fantastic sort of battle, and we'll speak more about sort of Rangers, Gerrard, and obviously the recent title win later on. But I think there's so many names that could be thrown into that Celtic job at the minute. Like we mentioned, you've got Chris Wilder now, Frank Lampard, Eddie Howe still out of job. So yeah, it's a real interesting position, which I'm sure there are a lot of names that are after it. We'll go back to the past weekend's results, just run through them quickly. So Sheffield United, the current topic of discussion, lost 2-0 to Southampton. Obviously, they come off that draw with you, Morgan, didn't they, against Chelsea? And they've come back and they've won. I think they need to start winning again. So it's good to see that they're back winning. And like we mentioned, for Sheffield United, it does look like possibly the championship for them next season. But I think that's no new news, really. It'd have to be something quite remarkable for them to stay up now. I think I think there's one team out of three which have a chance. We'll get onto them very shortly because that result made it a good Sunday as well, or a good start to the Sunday. Villa, Morgan, we'll come to you because obviously Villa 0, Wolves 0. Another Midland derby.
Look at that reaction.
You can tell by the reaction. You know how, as a United fan, I feel when we have a 0-0 against the top six. Well, I feel your pain in this sort of derby. So the floor is yours. Take it away.
It's hard to speak about Villa right now. It's hard to speak about us. I think look, right, any result was better than the Sheffield United one before this game.
Oh yeah.
Watching
All the big teams lose to
us
Sheffield
lose,
United.
watching
Yeah,
us
right.
lose 1-0 to the Blades, who had 10 men for 30 minutes and we couldn't score. I even saw Paddy Power tweeted that can't score against Sheffield United with with a points deduction. No, with 10 men, you should have a points deduction. It's that bad.
Hey, even Slaved scored for us.
But nah, look, off the back of that, coming up to kick off, we find out that El Ghazi, who's been one of our brightest sparks since Jack Grealish has got injured, has a toe infection. So Trez comes in. First half, we look really, really good. Changed the midfield again. We're struggling for form at the moment. So I think it was Louise Sanson coming for his debut. And I want to say Jacob Ramsey played as well. But we just can't find a midfield at the moment. Like McGinn, sorry. Villa's midfield has been a real positive for us. You know, even last season, we had a very settled midfield. But unfortunately, at the moment, we've got Louise, who's out of form. Nakamba had a really poor game against Sheffield United. Ramsey looks a little bit tired because he's been featuring a lot. Sanson looked really, really good in this game, but then come off with an injury. Barkley's not really proving himself at the moment. So we're struggling at the moment. We're really struggling. And first half, I thought we were excellent. Ollie Watkins, it's the bar, first 4 minutes. I'm thinking, oh, all right, fair enough.
Don't mention
We're
that,
on for
lad.
one
Don't
today.
mention that, lad.
But look, Ollie Watkins is honestly, I saw some statistic. He's hit the woodwork double the nearest person to him. He's double more woodwork than anyone else this year. He's so unlucky in front of goal. Ezri Konsa then hits the bar, and I'm thinking it's just not going to go in. But we end the half really, really well. And then second half, I think it was as bad as Sheffield United and Brighton. To be fair, we were terrible. And how Wolves didn't put one past us. If any of you have seen it, Saiz missed from a yard, Cody misses from a yard, Cody then misses from 2 yards. It could have been 3-0 in that second half, and Emi Martinez again saves us and keeps another clean sheet. But yeah, second half was very worrying from us. And look, a point to point, I would have took it before the game. Wolves are on a decent run of form, but I was quite worried at how Wolves nullified our threats so much in the second half. The game just flipped on its head. You know, it was a game of two halves, and look, I'm not going to complain with a point. Wolves haven't beat us this year, so they can mind the gap this year, because the amount of times they sent me messages last year to mind the gap, they can mind it this year, trust me.
Fair enough. One lad you mentioned, which is on loan from Chelsea, Ross Barkley. Chelsea, Morgan, I don't know how much you've seen at him at Villa. I know I watched the Leicester game where obviously Villa lost 2-1. And he got dragged off, and, you know, obviously for a bit of a paddy being dragged off. What have you made of him this season? He had a cracking start. I remember that belter he scored against Leicester away, you know, in the last minute to win you the game. And, you know, he's been influential. We obviously had his injury and he hasn't quite come back the same. So where does Bartley go from here? Because like me and Villa Morgan mentioned before, that, you know, the memo would have been with him and Dean Smith: you play well in this team, you get as high at the league, and you get in the England squad for the Euros. That would have been possibly one of the reasons him going to Villa. What happens now with Ross Barkley? Because he's not performing, he's not scoring, he's not assisting, but his work rate's not there. Where does he go from now, and what does this mean for him at Chelsea or whatever happens next season?
I don't think there's a spot for him at Chelsea, and particularly not in the system that Tuchel is playing at the moment, because we've got that double six pivot, which is being filled by two of Jorginho, Kante and Kovacic. We've then got our two inverted number 10s, which is anyone from Mount to Werner to Havertz to Ziyech. You know, take your pick of any of them. And then we've got our one up top, which is Havertz, Giroud, Abraham, Werner. Again, like, take your pick. So I can't see him getting ahead. Mason Mount's a dead start in that 10 position at the moment, so he doesn't get in there. And the other one, I mean, there's too much quality ahead of him in the Chelsea side now. So the only other options I see, Villa he hasn't performed at, and Conor Hourihane has out on loan at Swansea. Unless Swansea desperately want to keep him, the only way I see him staying at Swansea is if they get promoted to the Premier League. So if they don't, he will come back to Villa more than likely. Barkley then has to look for another club unless he's happy to be a bench warmer, possibly at Chelsea. Then you're looking at what clubs can he go to. He's got quality. He's shown that. He's shown in spurts at Chelsea, at Everton, at Villa that he can play good football. It's where suits him and where can integrate him, because he plays in a typical kind of number 10 position most of the time, and that's going out of fashion. People don't want a number 10. They want inverted wingers. They want people that are going to cut inside, or someone who's going to play a bit deeper in like your number 6 role. So he's got to find somewhere where he can be integrated into a system that's going to get the best out of him. And off the top of my head at the moment, I can't think of somewhere that's going to get the best out of him.
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, there's a lot of competition at Chelsea. You've obviously got Loftus-Cheek, who's also out on loan at the minute to come back. Danny Drinkwater is still at Chelsea. I mean, I don't know for how much longer. Yeah, Morgan don't like.
He snapped a kid.
Morgan don't like him. Yeah, he did. Yeah. He did do that. He did do that. He's a madman, and he's gone to Turkey. And I think that culture of football probably suits him by snapping people and stuff. But Villa, Morgan, quickly just back to you then. Chelsea Morgan mentioned Hourihane. Is there a spot for him at Villa next season, considering what he's doing at Swansea? Do you think how poorly possibly Barkley's performing at the minute, Dean Smith might go, well, actually, we could probably do with Hourihane now playing in that position? And is there a possibility he moves on permanently to Swansea if they do go up, or do you think this is only going to be a short-term loan?
I think I've said before, I'd have Conor back in a heartbeat. I think he's a fantastic player. The problem is with Conor is that he doesn't fit our system anymore. And I feel as though that we're in a stage now where Ross Barkley has to perform. He has to do something from now to the end of the season, because from what I know, Dean Smith wants him, but it's whether or not he wants to, pull his finger out and produce. And look, I think Hourihane, I would like to see him go to Swansea personally on a permanent deal if they go up, because he fits their system, and I just want to see him get regular football. If he comes back to Villa with Luiz, Nakamba, McGinn, Ramsey, Sanson we've just bought in, if Barkley comes back, he ain't going to get into that midfield three. And it's a shame, because he's a quality player, and there's no doubt that he is Premier League level, and he's proving that by tearing up the Championship. But it's interesting that we speak about Barkley, because I think Barkley is more frustrated at himself. I think he's lost half a yard of pace from that injury. He got a really bad injury against Brighton when he was flying. And since then, he's just not been the same player. And what people don't remember as well is that Ross Barkley playing with Jack Grealish is 10 times different than Ross Barkley playing without him. You look at Barkley trying to get the ball now, and he hasn't got anyone. He hasn't got an outlet. Usually he'll play in that left channel, and he'll just link up with Jack for 90 minutes because he knows that he's going to be there. But at the moment, he hasn't got him, and he just looks so out of place without Jack Grealish. And look, I think he has lost a half yard of pace, which is a shame. But there's a player there, like Morgan said, there's a player there. But the problem he's got is that he's just not consistent enough, and he's got to do something now, because he's not going to get into Chelsea's side. Tuchel isn't going to want him. So, and I'd love to have him back at Villa, but I think he's more frustrated at himself, because Southgate's been a lot of Villa games this year because of Konza, Cash, Mings, Target this season, Grealish, of course, Watkins. He's been at a lot of Villa games, and I think it was the Leicester game when he kicked the bottle. Gareth Southgate was there and he played terrible. And I think that was the moment he realised, I ain't getting anywhere near that England team ever again. I genuinely think it's that serious. I can't see him, unless something dramatic changes, getting near that England side, especially with how good of the midfield we've got now.
Yeah, because I think just lastly on sort of Villa and Barkley, I think even when he was playing well, you still look at the attacking players that we throw around to be in the Euro squad. You look at Mount, Maddison, Grealish, Foden. Them four were probably ahead of him when he was playing well, and now he's not playing well. They're ahead of him even more. So I think it was always going to be an uphill battle for him to be in the England squad. I'm not saying he would never have got in, because if he had carried on having an incredible season, I mean, we look at Lingard now, how he's played at West Ham. If Barkley had done what Lingard's done for the rest of the season, because he started similar way, then he'd have a shout. Because Lingard, if he carries on the way he does, he's got a shout. I'm not saying he's going to be in it, but he's got a shout. But I think there's so much competition just for that one position as well, an attacking midfielder. That's forgetting if you want to play Sancho as an attacking midfielder or anyone else as an attacking midfielder. So I think it was always going to be a bit of a struggle. We'll move on to our next game. Brighton 1, Leicester 2. Now, I want to bring this up because Morgan, as we are both aware, Man United and Chelsea fans, Leicester is a team that we both check the scores at, I'm sure, multiple times during the week, at the weekend and etc. For us, because they're chasing us, and for you, because you're chasing them. I saw this. I didn't watch a game, but I saw Brighton go 1-up, and then obviously Leicester pulled it back. And I'm then going into the Manchester derby, thinking if we don't beat City, we're then third behind Leicester, and sort of the United tumble would continue really. But Leicester, a lot of injuries again. Everyone's picking up injuries. I mean, we obviously know one club moans about it a bit more than everyone else, but we'll let that slide for the minute. With Leicester, where do they go from here? Is it just a case of get players back and see if they can push a bit further? Is it just, not lose for the next few games so they get players back? What do they do from here? Because, they're out of the Europa League now, a bit of a shock exit, I think we could all agree, to Slavia Prague or West Ham B team. And then, they're only concentrating on the league and FA Cup now. Is that a good thing for them being out of the Europa League? And this is an open question.
I'll give to the Jamie Redknapp expert analysis, which I heard on after the Chelsea-Liverpool game. They need to somehow, some way, find a way to keep in that top four. Now, the best way for them, but as a proper answer, they need to, for them, they just need to kind of hold on to the players that they've got a decent squad of players with the injuries that they've got anyway. They've still got that core defence, which is still performing well. I know it's kind of muddled. They lost James Justin, who's been excellent for them so far this season. Obviously, having Schmeichel in goal, I think, gives any back four confidence, because that 9 times out of 10 he's going to put in a good performance. So you kind of got a bit of leeway as a back four. It's going forwards where they've kind of on certain occasions looked a little bit toothless. Vardy, since he had that hernia operation, hasn't looked the same. Whether he's lost a yard of pace, a yard of confidence, I don't know. But there's something lacking from his game. And if you take Vardy's goals away, I don't know where the goals come from. Iheanacho doesn't provide as much as he should. Maddison provides the assist but doesn't score as much as he should. And Tielemans doesn't provide as much as he should. So there's
Harvey Barnes having a good season,
but he doesn't score much. He kind of bombs up and down that left wing, and whereas a lot of teams want that player that's going to cut inside and cut it into the top corner, he just comes up the left and crosses it. So it's where they're going to build this top four charge from.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very much at the minute to how Leicester was last season, at the end of the season when obviously United were chasing them, Chelsea were chasing them for top four. And they were just clinging on and clinging on and clinging on. In the last game of the season, obviously we beat them, you beat Wolves, and us two finished in the top four. It seems like that with Leicester at the minute until they get players back, because I think Maddison's injured, like you mentioned. Vardy's a little bit hit and miss. I think Barnes may be injured, or he's in and out of the team and stuff. So it's just can they get by? And then with Brighton, I mean, they've lost another game. They've scored. It hasn't been a striker that scored, but apparently, according to the stats, Brighton should be fifth in the Premier League in terms of expected points. If they had a striker, they'd be fifth in the Premier League. They're playing that well, but can't finish their dinner.
I mean, if you're going to talk about Leicester as well, just for a sec, I think Brendan Rodgers deserves an awful lot of credit because, like we've already alluded to, you look at Jurgen Klopp, who moans every week about injuries. Every single Liverpool fan we know has probably told us that Van Dijk's injured about 70 times this year.
I thought he was dead.
He's changed the formation. Oh well, I mean, it's new. Do you know what? Brendan Rodgers has changed. He's changed the formation, and he's almost reinvented himself within the season. He's got a plan B, and you can see that. And this game, you go 1-0 down away at Brighton, where Brighton do play good football. Let's not joke about here. Like, they create chances for a reason. They're a good footballing side. So to go 1-0 down early on in the game, and to have the mental toughness and resilience, especially when you consider how many injuries they have out, they found a way. And this was a massive result because this is a banana skin game for them, and they've got the 3 points. And as much as it was a mistake from Sanchez, you can't deny that Leicester, even with their injuries, have the quality to beat anyone. Yes, Leicester, I think Maddison is the bigger miss than Barnes. You saw Maddison, how he destroyed Villa. And then in the second half, they were a completely different side. In terms of an attacking outlet, they had nothing. And we're seeing Vardy at the moment be a little bit isolated. But what that almost is doing is, from watching Leicester, teams naturally often just focus on Vardy, and that is giving players like Iheanacho at the moment and Tielemans and Ndidi the license to exploit space further, because teams are constantly expecting Leicester to play the same way of putting the ball over the top, Maddison and Barnes and Vardy, but they're not doing that at the moment. So if Brendan Rodgers makes top four, I think honestly he deserves so much credit, because the injuries that they've had this season is a joke. They've had more injuries than Liverpool. They've had more injuries to Liverpool than Liverpool. So I think them going out the Europa League as well is going to be a blessing in disguise. I think they're going to do really well now and kick on, because being in Europe, travelling here, there and everywhere, you saw when they come back after losing against Slavia Prague, they were terrible against Arsenal. So I think they'll do well. And Brighton, I mean, they're in trouble. They're in real trouble, because I tell you something, they're lucky. They're very lucky that Newcastle are woeful. And I'm saying that with us playing them in 37 minutes. And look, I think Newcastle are the ones that are going to go down. But Brighton, I think, are fortunate that Newcastle have lost Callum Wilson and St. Maximin and Almiron. Because I think Newcastle, with their team, even though they've got Steve Bruce, I think they'd stay up over Brighton. I really do, because Brighton just don't get results. It's all right playing good football, but what does that count for? Honestly, what does that count for? We saw it with Villa last year. We were trying to play good football before Project Restart. We conceded a ton of goals, but we scored loads, and everyone was like, Villa are so entertaining to watch. We come back from Project Restart, and Dean Smith went, look, it's got to a point now, we've got to change something. And we changed it, and we went a lot more defensive in games. And I remember playing Chelsea after Project Restart, and we were 1-0 up at half-time, defending really well. Yeah, they went on to beat us, but we look after Project Restart and going into this season, we look so much better defensively, because we've had to make that tweak. If Potter keeps playing the same way, they could get dragged into a fight that they really don't want to be in. And I don't think that they've got good enough quality going forward to get them out of that scrap. I really don't.
I watched the
No.
Palace game that they had a couple of weeks back, and they were so toothless going forwards. They had no cutting edge. They had like 23 shots. Palace had 2, scored 2. Brighton had that 23, scored 1. And they get to the box, they get to the edge of the box, and they see the Palace were a well drilled side. So they had this wall of defence, and it kind of just went from side to side. And there's no one making that run between the lines, or if they are, the pass is over here, or it's too late, so he's already offside, or they're overhitting the cross. They need, even when they got Welbeck on the pitch, he still wasn't making the runs that you'd expect a striker of his calibre to be able to make. They almost need to get a player like Glenn Murray back, because at least you know that he's going to be able to put the ball in the back of the net. They create so many chances and have so little success from it.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I mean, if they found a striker, they might actually be top half of the table. They've been playing that well. But we'll move on. Go on.
They spent 30 million on Neil Maupay. They spent 30 million on Neil Maupay. Now, you have to bear that in mind. He was brilliant last season, but 30 million on a striker, and you're now, like, Brighton are now going to be looking for a new one. You wouldn't even get 5 million for Maupay now, with his attitude and everything. Like, that was really bad investment from Brighton, and Welbeck's past it as well. He's not good enough, so they need to get a striker in. But the thing is, they're going to have to overpay now, because clubs know that they need one. So ultimately, they're gonna make a massive loss on Maupay, and they're gonna have to pay even more to get a new striker in. So, yeah, poor business from Brighton, I think. Cost them.
Yeah, like I said, Maupay was good last season, especially against Arsenal. So that was entertaining to watch. I think, considering it, I'm sure if it was our club, we'd be fuming, but it's Arsenal, so
Maupay, you're
it's
a
all right.
disgrace.
Hope Brighton get relegated. We'll move on from Brighton and Leicester. We'll quickly touch on this next game. West Brom 0, Newcastle 0. I think that's all we really need to say about that one, to be honest. I think both teams are in a little bit of trouble, as Morgan mentioned about the injuries Newcastle have got. But the next result, which was the beginning of a great Sunday, is Liverpool 0, Fulham 1. And can I point out, Liverpool did not beat Fulham this season. They have lost and drawn to Fulham, who are currently in the bottom 3. Does that also sum up Liverpool's season in terms of results? Because they have been all over the place, and then at home they cannot win, and they cannot score. They can't score either.
It sums up the run they're on at the moment, particularly at home. They, like you say, they cannot score. They look like they're rushing everything. Everything's forced. Everything's a struggle defensively. They all look inept. They all look clueless. The ball's going past them. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson look like shells of the players we saw in the last 2 years. They just look like a team that needs an overhaul. They need someone new. As much as Jurgen Klopp has done a good job at Liverpool, FSG have the perfect excuse to go, we need a new manager to put new ideas in to stop this rot. 6 defeats in a row at home is bad for any team, let alone a side that should be winning titles. They shouldn't just be winning the Premier League. They should win in Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup. This should be their bread and butter. So when you go on an unbeaten run as long as they did at home, what was it, 2.5 seasons pretty much, it baffles me how they've gone from this unbeatable side. Well, it doesn't, because they've gone from this unbeatable side. You take a couple players out and all of a sudden the cracks appear, the arguments appear, and a team of that quality that competes at the right end of the league, 4 Champions Leagues, 4 other trophies, that shouldn't be the case. You look at Tottenham, Chelsea, City, United, they've got squad depth. They've got players that can be injured and replace them with equally good players, if not better in some cases. So why Liverpool haven't realised this is beyond me, because that's how all good teams build their teams. They have enough in reserve that if something goes wrong, they're still on the same level.
I always said with Liverpool that they have to be careful because they've got a lot of aging players. You look at Salah, I think he's 29, 30. Firmino's 27, 28-ish. I know that's primes of their careers and stuff. Van Dijk, I think, is 27, 28. There's a lot of aging players in that squad, and soon, if they don't start replacing them now, they're going to have a huge rebuild. I mean, they brought in Thiago, who's been, should we say, disappointing or thumbs up merchant or something like that. And he's 29, 30 as well. So they are going to need a huge rebuild soon. And Liverpool are not the team to go out and spend money unless they recoup a lot of it. So I think they're in huge trouble. And I know we've seen, I know Fergie won his last title with Ferdinand at 35 and Vidic at 30 odd and, Ever at 30 odd. But, I think there was probably a different time back then. The Premier League's different. But they have been awful, haven't they, this season? And I think a lot of the play, there's so much going on. Is Salah going to stay? Is Mane going to stay? Wijnaldum, is he leaving on a free? Is he signing a new deal? All this talk around getting centre backs. They finally get to, and I think Ben Davies is injured. It's all going wrong for them. And like you said, this is meant to be one of the greatest Premier League teams of all time, and all they've done is won a Champions League and Premier League, which wasn't even in the same season, but they'll still pose with the pair of them.
I think I'd personally, do you know what? I'm sick to death of pundits and stuff talking about Liverpool, especially when this result was massive for Fulham. Absolutely massive.
Huge.
The context of this result is huge, and the level of disrespect that any team has been shown this season, beating Liverpool. Villa 7-2 at the start of the season. Liverpool were awful, absolutely awful. No one credited Villa whatsoever. Graham Souness at half time, 4-1 down, goes, Villa probably didn't cut the grass right. I would honestly want to focus more on Fulham in this game, because do you know what? I called it, didn't I, at the start of the season, Braden? I said Fulham are the one team that I look at and they can get out of this, and they will. I'm certain they will. The quality that they have, and I don't think Scotty Parker gets enough credit as well. Their recruitment has been spot on this summer. Loftus-Cheek has been brilliant. Lamina from Southampton has been fantastic. Adebayo has turned his fortunes around massively. Anderson's a leader. Areola in goal, incredible. Don't know how they got him in the first place. They've brought in Josh Maja, who knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. Lookman has been unreal. Fulham, when we play Fulham in a few weeks' time, I'm scared. I genuinely think they'll beat us. I think they've got too much quality for us. And look, this result was huge for them. And it weren't as if they didn't deserve it, because they got their goal and they just sat back. Because every team knows now with Liverpool that if you put a goal past them, that's it. They ain't scoring past you. Because what I see with Liverpool, if I do want to talk about them for a minute, is that I see a side that are mentally and physically drained. I see a side that have been pushed to their absolute limits and are now at a point where they are breaking down. And I think Klopp has took that team as far as he physically could. I think now the next 2 or 3 years we are going to see a rebuild at Liverpool. This isn't an overnight. This isn't a 1 week job.
No, not
Go on, mate.
Not at all.
Go on, mate.
But like you said, it's not an overnight job. And I think, like we mentioned, the squad depth earlier. You look at Chelsea, City, obviously, but Man United even this season. When you've had injuries, you've had players to come in that are equally as good. I always look at that Liverpool bench, and even last season when they won the league and when they won the Champions League beforehand, they had Shaqiri, Origi, and possibly Curtis Jones maybe to bring off the bench. There might be a couple others that I've missed, but they're like their main 3 subs that they bring on. And they've been lucky, Liverpool, because they haven't had many injuries over the past couple of years. I know obviously against Barcelona they had a few injuries in that game, but in terms of the duration of the season, they've been quite lucky, similar to when Leicester won the league, not many injuries. Whereas now it seems like every man that kicks a ball gets injured for him.
It's interesting, just going back a couple of points, that you say that Klopp has run this side as far as he can. He's run them into the ground. He did the same thing at Dortmund. He was only at Dortmund for 5 years.
Yeah.
And in that final year, they nearly got relegated because he'd run them into the ground. He'd done exactly what he did at Liverpool. He had started 11, and that was kind of it. There wasn't a plan B. And those players got injured because they run so hard in his system that they just snapped. And like you say, the same thing happened at Liverpool. Not enough credit has been given to any of the teams that have beaten Liverpool at home. Let's not forget Burnley. Look at the job they did. And all of the focus that night was Liverpool 68 game unbeaten runs over. None of the focus was on the fact that actually Burnley did what Burnley do best. They sat back, absorbed pressure, and hit Liverpool when they could, got the penalty, got the goal. And a few other teams have done that. Everton did it exceptionally, soaked up, hit when they could, got the goal early on, so knew that they could rely on Liverpool to make mistakes. And then going to the Fulham point, if there were a couple teams above them that could, we've already touched on Brighton and Newcastle, but they could seriously challenge higher up the league next season. For me, there's not a chance they go down, not anymore. And the teams around that mid-table area, Leeds, Wolves, they've got to be looking over their shoulders because Scott Parker's got that team playing the way he wants them to. They're energetic, they make the right signings, he's got the back of the board, the players get on with him. There's a real team ethos and enjoyment there seems to be around Fulham at the moment.
Yeah, I think just quickly on Klopp. Go on, Morgan.
I was just going to say, based on Morgan's point, like when Fulham were last in the Premier League, there was no real philosophy there, and it was an absolute shambles. But I remember Scotty Parker doing really well when he first came in. And I think he won quite a few games. And I thought, you know what? If he can get them up, I reckon he might do something. And
can we just on that point quickly? At the beginning of the season, I think when you played them, Morgan, you beat them 3-0.
They were terrible.
They had a back three of Hector, Tim Ream, and Nat Adoy. That's the same defence which got them relegated last time. And I was looking at it thinking they are not staying up with that defence. And now you look at it now, you've got Aina who starts, Anderson, Tossin, and Anthony Robertson or whoever starts at left back for them
as well.
That's it. So that's a whole new defence, and that's why they're playing better.
But that's the thing.
Well.
Yeah, you look at how bad they were at the start of the season. It's not, it's not as if they've hit the ground. For me, they've hit form at the perfect time, and there's a clear philosophy. And like Morgan said, there's a clear club ethos there. And credit to them because it looked like at one stage that they were dead and buried, and everyone was writing them off. And their recruitment as well, I think, has been one of the best in the league. You look at the impact that it's had, their recruitment has been phenomenal for me. And I don't think people talk about it enough.
No,
when you're at the bottom, it does go a little bit under the radar, doesn't it, though? You can make these good signings, but because it's not a big name player, it slips under the radar and people disregard it, don't they?
Exactly. And like you said, I think Lookman, Loftus-Cheek, Lamina, they're all players which have been in and around the Premier League. Josh Madger, as we both know, was playing against Argyle 2-3 years ago in League One for Sunderland. So it just shows where he's come on from as well, and he does look like an exciting player. Jurgen Klopp and sort of the Germany job. Lowe's leaving after the Euros. Hopefully this summer they still go ahead. Looks likely they are. He's already said no to the Germany job. Do you think there will ever be a change of heart and he will take it at the end of this season?
How many times has a player, a manager, anyone gone, I'm not going to take that job, I'm not going to join that club, or I'm not going to leave this club, I love the club too much. 6 weeks later, they're out the door because the money's better or, they're happier. At the end of the day, it'd be a move home, wouldn't it? And you get to manage your country. And there can surely be no better feeling as a football manager than to be the guy that can bring success to the entire nation. He's got 3 years left on his Liverpool deal. Apart from winning the FA Cup and other domestic trophies, there's nothing more to win at Liverpool. The only success he can surely want is on an international level. The reason I think he said it is the offer wasn't right. I genuinely think the money is what it's come to, and he's gone, I'm a Premier League and Champions League winner, I need more money. So I do think there'll be a change of heart at some point, whether it's this summer or whether it's a year or two down the line. But at some point, Klopp's going to take that Germany job because it's his country.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. A couple of things on that for you, Villa Morgan. Obviously, Klopp said no to managing Germany at the minute. Firstly, do you think it's down to he's still in a Premier League season at the minute? He's still obviously got the Premier League to fight for, but he's still got the Champions League. So do you think he's just ruling that out so he can focus on Liverpool and there's not like rumours surrounding him and the club? And then secondly, do you think it's down to how Germany perform in these Euros? If they have another stinking performance and, they fall way under the bar like they did in the World Cup, where I think they got knocked out in the group stages, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Do you think he'd then be like, okay, they're in a bit of a crisis, Germany, I could go in and, breath of fresh air and possibly liven things up? Do you think he's waiting for possibly how Germany do in the Euros and also possibly not try and create this whole rumours of him going by saying no at the minute so we focus on this season at Liverpool?
I honestly don't see a world in which Jurgen Klopp leaves Liverpool within the next 2 years. I think it's absolute madness that he has a slightly poor season with Liverpool and already people link him with other jobs. It just shows there's no sentimentals in football anymore. There's no longevity whatsoever. This man last season, people were talking about him starting a legacy at Liverpool and revitalising a Liverpool of old and turning them into a formidable force in decades to come, it seemed. And now people are saying, look, he might go and get the German job. He will not leave Liverpool. I'd honestly hang my hat on it. He will not leave Liverpool. He will stay at that club and he will rebuild. Because, do you know what? He's started something at Liverpool that he gets it. He gets it with Liverpool. He gets the sentiment of the fans. He gets the passion of the city. He gets it. And I think he genuinely loves Liverpool. And why would he walk away now and leave them in a terrible position where they've got a load of rundown players who are nearly the end of their contracts, who are all aging? I genuinely think that Jurgen Klopp in the next 2 or 3 years will be setting up for Steven Gerrard. I think he will be setting up and building a squad that Gerrard can take on.
There was an interesting point made by Gerrard in an interview following Rangers winning the title. I'm not sure you're going to touch on it, where he basically said, he was asked, will you take the Liverpool job if it becomes available? And he said, Liverpool fans should want Jurgen Klopp to stay in the job. I'm not ready for it. It's basically what he was saying. I support Liverpool. I want Jurgen Klopp to stay in the job, and that's what they should be saying. The issue at Liverpool is FSG could be looking for a reason to change the management because Klopp can't be cheap, and we all know that FSG is like a cheap option. 6 losses at home in a row, that's all the ammunition they need to pull the trigger, whether or not they'd be willing to or not, because it would turn the fans even more so. Let's not beat around the bush. Liverpool aren't doing what they should be doing this season, but they're not they're not in the end of the world scenario. They can still win the Champions League. They can still qualify for the Europa League in the league, which isn't what they want, but it's still European football. There's still room to work within that size, and we've seen Klopp do it. Remember where he took that Liverpool side from initially and where they are now. So it would be a jump of the gun, I think, if they were to get rid of him soon.
Yeah, just you mentioned where Liverpool are in the league now. Just sort of finish up on them. currently 8th. Obviously, Villa got 2 games in hand on them, are only 3 points behind. So I think you'd like to think, especially you, Villa Morgan, that you'd get 3 points and go ahead of them. So that's them potentially down to 9th. And then if Arsenal win their game in hand, they go, I think, 2 points behind Liverpool. Arsenal will be 10th, 2 points behind Liverpool in 9th. Where do you see them finishing this season? Can they claw a Europa League spot? Or do you think there's so much competition with teams in form now? You look at Tottenham, who we'll get onto in a minute, Everton, West Ham, they occupy 7th, 6th and 5th. You'll have Villa above Liverpool. Do you see them potentially not even getting Europe this season because it's so competitive and there's teams there which are in much better form than Liverpool at the minute?
I'll take it first. I see them finishing 7th. And then you're in that sticky spot of you're relying on the 2 winners of the domestic cups in England to be sides that have already qualified for Europe, because otherwise,
or for us to win the Europa League or something.
I think even that way that you still miss out. So because I don't think so. If you look at the top 4, top 5. Top 4 I think will stay relatively similar, maybe Everton instead of Leicester or something like that. Other than that, I think City, United, Chelsea, I've all got enough quality to stay in and around that position. It's just taking in what order. Then you've got Leicester, Everton, West Ham, Spurs, Liverpool, all going for 3 Europa League spots, and 2 of them have got to miss out. I can't see West Ham missing out at the moment because they've just got that momentum that can carry a side. They all look confident. They're all pulling in the same direction. They've added Lingard in, who was just slotted in seamlessly and is hitting the form that we saw him hit at the World Cup. They've got everything firing for them. David Moyes is showing what he can actually do when he's given some time to work with players and put his money behind them, put his stamp on the sides. Then Everton, you've got Carlo Ancelotti. We all know what Carlo Ancelotti does. We've seen him turn around sides, win trophies everywhere he's been. So it's no surprise that they are where they are. Tottenham, Jose Mourinho, very similar to Everton. So it will be a toss-up. I just think that one of them's going to step up, and Leicester aren't slipping any further than 6th. I don't think they'll be at least the Europa League next season. So then it does come down to sort of West Ham, Liverpool. Honestly, maybe even 8th. Maybe they do miss out on European football because there are so many sides in just better form than them in the league.
That's my thoughts, and that's not even me wanting them to finish 8th or 9th. I just think if you look at them currently, there are so many teams there that are in better form, and obviously Villa play tonight, so who knows, they may lose, so that'll be good for us all. Villa Morgan, where are Liverpool finishing this season? Are they going to finish as low as 9th? Are they going to break into that top 4? Where are they finishing for you?
Top 10. Top 10. I just think
vague. That doesn't help us. I think we know they're going to finish top 10, man. I mean, if they finish below Arsenal, then that's a joke.
Well, I mean, look, Liverpool are in a real rough patch, and the thing is that I find it hard to predict where they're actually going to finish because there is no doubting whatsoever that Liverpool have the quality to go on a run. Let's not forget they were looking really good at the start of the season, even with some of the injuries that they'd already got at that time. So there's no doubt. Look, they can more than have the quality. The problem they've got is that there are sides above them that are playing much better football and getting results. And this is the thing. Liverpool have lost so many games in which you look at and go, how have they lost? Like Burnley at home, Brighton at home, Fulham at home. No disrespect, that should be 9 points. That should be undisputedly 9 points for Liverpool Football Club. And they've got none. And unfortunately, I think they're on a bad enough run that I can't see when it's ending. So I don't personally
is it
see
gonna
them
end,
even
Robbie?
getting near Europa League. I just don't see them. I'm going to make this statement. I think we will finish ahead of them this year. I think they're going to finish 9th or 10th. I think we will finish ahead of them this year.
I don't
Bear
think
in
that's
mind
the
as
worst
well,
statement in the world.
we've got
That's not the-
Liverpool coming up.
Yeah, I don't think
We've
that's
got them
the.
at Anfield.
I'm just going to have a look at the table now. Look, your West Ham game in hand on Liverpool, they're already 5 points above them. Everton game in hand on Liverpool, they're already 3 points above them. Tottenham game in hand on
Tottenham.
Liverpool, they're already 2 points above them. Villa, 2 games in hand, 3 points behind. Arsenal, 5 points behind with a game in hand. Any of those sides, particularly the three that are already above Liverpool, you'd bet a lot of. I'd bet your money that are going to stay above them with those games in hand. I don't know what Liverpool's fixtures coming up are, but there's surely not there's not an easy game for them. If you're losing to Fulham, Brighton, Burnley, like you say, games that they should be winning, particularly at home, because you're a top side, you shouldn't be losing games at home. Who have you got? They've got Villa at home coming up, Newcastle. None
United
of
at
those
home.
sides. That's United away. It's United at Old Trafford.
Oh yeah,
No.
yeah, United away. Sorry, we're at home.
But you know,
against them.
it's games that even now don't look easy, and particularly at that point in the season when you're getting into April, sides like Newcastle are going to go there and play their heart out because they're going to want to stay in the Premier League. We're not going to
Exactly.
have any easy game now. We're in March. There is no easy game now.
Not at all. And I think that's look, Liverpool are in a sticky situation, and look, we've talked for quite a while about them. I feel we could do a whole stream on them. We could have done one on Arsenal earlier. We could probably still do one on Arsenal now, but Liverpool just seems like another one we could be sat for 2 hours. Morgan, I'm aware, Villa Morgan, I know you've got to shoot off because Villa are playing in about 10 minutes. So before I guess you do leave, I just want to get your prediction for the game tonight against Newcastle.
I've seen the lineup. Matty Cash is on the bench. Elmo is starting, which is a bit frustrating, but Cash has only just come back from a 3 or 4 game injury, so it's probably unrealistic for him to start. Ramsey has come in for Sanson, so it's a midfield of Louise, McGinn and Ramsey, which I like. I've got nothing against. Trezeguet keeps his place with El Ghazi on the bench. And other than that, we're unchanged. So, look, tonight is a must win. Not only because I've got a Newcastle fan as a mate, but it's must win because Newcastle have no attacking threat in that side whatsoever tonight.
They got Joe Linton.
Injured.
They got Joe Linton.
Hey,
come on,
look,
don't disrespect.
Look, these will be famous last words, but Wilson out injured, Almiron out injured, St. Maximin out injured. It is so Villa to lose this game. Everything is in our favour. And you look at the Sheffield United game that we lost. Sheffield United had all of their back five. I think their first choice back five. Every single one of them was injured. Every single one of them was injured, and we still lost. So tonight for me is the perfect game for us to get back to winning ways and get confidence and go on a run until the end of the season. It'd be tough tonight because Newcastle are just going to put 10 men behind the ball because they know that we know what Newcastle are like. That's what they do. But look, we should be winning tonight. If we want to even have a chance of making a brief stint for Europa League football, tonight has to be 3 points. And I'd love it to be convincingly. Prediction for tonight. Oh, this is tough, man. This is tough. Do you know what? I'm going to go 1-0 Villa. I'm going to go 1-0 Villa. And I think Watkins will get a goal. I think he deserves one. He's been so good this season. So unlucky. 12 goals already. I think hopefully he'll make it 13 tonight. But again, if we lose to Newcastle tonight, I really do see people start. It's tough because like we've done so well this season, but we've almost done everything in backwards. We did really well at the start of the season, and now we're stumbling. And if we lose tonight, I think it's just going to give everyone ammunition to shoot at us and go, "You're nothing without Jack Grealish. You're so bang average and all that." So, look, as tough as tonight is, looking at how Newcastle were against West Brom, looking how toothless they are, and how many clean sheets we've got this year in our defensive record, this should be a clean sheet, easy victory. But because we lost that Sheffield United game, I've always got that thought in the back of my mind. Like, if they get an early goal, we are done for. I saw some amazing stat this season. Villa have only got 1 point this season, coming back from 1-0 down. Who was that against? Chelsea.
Oh, yeah.
Chelsea is the only game this season that Villa have gone 1-0 down and got something out of the game. And that has happened. I tell you something, that has happened 12 times this season. And once have we got something out of the game. So the key to us this season is putting the ball in the back of the net before us, because we just stumble. But then if you worked it the other way, we've only lost one game this season where we've scored first, and that was Burnley, which was a freak result. So if we score first tonight, we'll be absolutely fine. But it's just getting that goal at the moment. We don't look as great going forward, and obviously when you're missing Jack Grealish, it's of course it's going to be like that. And Cash as well, who offers a lot going forward. So look, I'm hoping we win tonight, but I'm going to go 1-0. I always predict a cagey 1-0 for Villa, but I do genuinely think it'll happen tonight.
Fair enough, mate. Before you go, Chelsea Morgan, have you got a prediction for the Newcastle Villa game tonight?
I was going to go 2-1 Villa. I think Newcastle will provide a scare at some point. I think Villa will go 1-0 up, but this is the time where you see those sides at the bottom. They start to make their attempt to get back up the league, don't they? They start to all of a sudden show form that would get them in the Champions League spots normally. So yeah, 2-1 Villa, but a good Newcastle performance.
Yeah, I'll quickly say mine. I remember when Newcastle played against United, they played really well, and I know they lost 3-1, but I was impressed with them. They obviously had St. Maximin then, who doesn't play tonight. I'm going to go 3-0 Newcastle, Joe Linton hat-trick. No, I'm joking. I'll go 2-1 Villa. Same as Chelsea Morgan. I think it'll be a close game, to be honest. I think, like you said, Newcastle, this could be where they start performing like prime Barcelona and try and get themselves up the league to a little bit of safety. But yeah, I reckon Joe Linton scores from tonight, to be honest.
You got money on Joe Linton?
I'm nervous now.
Hey,
I'm nervous now.
Don't be nervous, mate. Go and enjoy the 3 points.
Mate. Cheers, guys, for having me on. See you later.
No worries. Cheers, mate. Right. Down to us two to finish off the review, and then we'll give score predictions for the games coming up. And it's my favourite scoreline of the whole week. And we're going to do, you already know, wow. Manchester's red, and it always will be. So come on. It's one of the runs had to come to an end. And we've done it. We've done it.
I didn't see the game, but from all accounts, United made the most of their chances. City didn't. And it's kind of a common theme in Manchester derbies, isn't it? Particularly over the last 3 or 4 years. United aren't the best team in Manchester over the course of the season until it comes to the important game. And Phil Foden kind of touched on it. For some reason, City don't get up for the derby. I can't put my finger on it, because Guardiola's managed the biggest derbies in world football. El Clasico, the Clasica, and now this one. And yet he can't get these players ready for the most important game for the fans. So when I never bet against United for this game. I always think there's a fighting chance. You look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's record. He's the only manager to have beaten Guardiola away from home 3 times in a row. No other manager's managed to do that. So there's clearly something he can do to get his players up for important games. It's not just against Man City that he manages it. He does well against Liverpool. The only thing I'd say against him is they've lacked goals this season in big games. And it's been touched on a few times. This was the first time in playing the top 6 that you've scored a goal from open play. The other 2 were Bruno Fernandes penalties. So it's a case of, it's always been a case of, if City went ahead in this game, it was going to be game over. But United did what they had to do.
To be honest, obviously, went ahead very early with the penalty, and no complaints. It's a penalty. I don't even know what Jesus is doing back there, but I'm not complaining. Martial, I thought, was like, if I was to go through all that Man United team, I don't think I could have given anyone below a 7. I think everyone played that well in that game. I think possibly the lowest scorers would have been McTominay and Fred and 7, because, every time they got the ball, you were like, oh my God, and they gave it away a few times, but off the ball, they were magnificent, the pair of them. And, you look at your likes, I think Henderson was a 9 or 10. I think Maguire and Lindelof were 9 and 10s in that game, just, sniffed everything out. Shaw, I thought, was unbelievable. I thought Martial was a 9, which is, very hard to say. If he should have scored, which would have given him a 10. But yeah, we led early, and like I said, Bruno never scores in the big games, but he scores another penalty, which we are not complaining about whatsoever. So we'll take that.
I think we've
Edison
had more
probably
penalties to do this season, so can't say anything now.
Yeah, you need to find someone who can score him, because Jorginho is a B-Tech Fernandes with the run-up.
He did it first. He's only scored 7 this season.
So yeah, led early, and I think that was the best thing I think that could have happened. There's always that doubt that you lead too early, or you score too early, and you need to hang on. We see it with England against Croatia when Trippier scored. You score too early, and then you got to hang on for all that time. But yes, okay, there's always going to be moments where, your heart's in your mouth and you're like, that was a close chance for City. But then in that second half, there was about a 15, 20-minute period from the beginning to obviously 20 minutes in. We dominated them. Like, Shaw scored. Martial had 2 chances. He should have scored one of them. I think Rashford should have had a shot when he passed it or whatever. Dan James was flying down the wing. And I'm looking at it thinking, we're battering them there for 15, 20 minutes. And then obviously they come back because it's City. They're going to come back at some point. And you get a clean sheet. I mean, to go to the Etihad, where City have been unbeaten in 22 games, a clean sheet, 2 goals, and then a performance which, unlike last year, a lot of it was smash and grab. You sit back, and then you counter. There was a lot of times in that game where we had the ball and we were, passing it around in their half, recycling it, going backwards, forwards. We looked a lot better in this game compared to last season when we beat them. And look, you could argue that compared to other Big 6 games against you, Liverpool, and previously, that if Pogba had scored against Liverpool, or if we'd nicked the goal against you, it's the same performances. Just against City we scored, and against you and Liverpool we didn't score, didn't create enough. So I think defensively we're always solid in these games. It's just whether you can go forward and score. But I thought it was that's up there, one of the best performances of the season, and I think we had to win it, just because I think if we lost that, it would have been just another dagger in the heart in terms of, I think it would have been 17 points or 14 points. You would have lost the derby. I think we would have been behind Leicester as well, and it would have been like, I don't know how we continue from that. But then obviously touching on United, and we drew last night in the Europa League, which was a tough one to take, because we didn't play well, let's put it that way. AC Milan should have got 1-0 up, perfectly good goal with Kessie, nothing wrong with it, but obviously VAR found a handball somewhere. And yeah, we were just poor for the rest of the first half, to be honest. Martial comes off injured, so that's another injury. We got Rashford come off injured against City. So Diallo comes on, and with his first shot of his United career, he scores a Chicharito like header, and Uncle Eric Bailly goes sprinting down the line and jumping on top of him. And I was so happy for the lad. Honestly, it was a great moment, and hopefully, and I think it will be the first of many, but a fantastic finish. But then again, the game changed 75th minute when Ollie made 3 subs, where he took off Bruno, Dan James, and who was to take off? Wan-Bissaka, and he brought on Brandon Williams, Luke Shaw, and Fred. And Fred played in as attacking midfielder. I tried to see the game out, played 5 at the back, and it went horribly wrong. We had attack is the best form of defense, and we had none of it. We had Greenwood up front, who was unbelievable because considering Martial went off, he was like the senior man there next to Dan James and, Ahmad. It was like, he was the main focal point, and, he did all he could, but Fred passing, I don't want to see it, man. He was awful. He's very good off the ball, but on it, he is something else. And a corner coming. I mean, Fred gave the ball away on the counter. Imagine my shock. They go down the other end, win a corner. Matic loses him. McTominay doesn't jump. Henderson should save it. It's 4 errors in 1, 5 if you include the substitutions. If you make 5 errors in the space of 20 minutes, you're going to concede. So, it was poor, but in hindsight, Milan should probably have drawn or won. But when you're 1-0 up with a minute to go, you don't expect to concede. So a mixed bag. We've got to go to Milan and score. You'd like to think we would have done that even if we were 1-0 up, but we've got to go to Milan and score, else we're out. So not over, but with the injuries we've got now, I won't moan about them, but hopefully the boys can do their job because they're more than capable of doing so. Just need to put the performances together. But that's enough about Man United because I could be here all day. I think a title race is a little bit way off now. It's still 11 points. I was going to say, if we had recorded this before City played Southampton, I would have said there's a chance United win the league because you don't know how City react to their first loss. But then obviously they're going to beat Southampton. Yeah, they beat Southampton 5-2. So it just looked like a bump in the road for them. Nothing like no downfalls happening. So unfortunately, I can't even pull that one out the bag. The title race is back on. So for us now, it's just finish as close as you can to City. Obviously, try and stay second. You should stay second. And then he's got to win the Europa League or FA Cup, one of the two. If you can win both, unreal. But that's sort of it on United. Just quickly touch on this one because there's one man I want to talk about. Tottenham 4, Crystal Palace 1. Is Gareth Bale back?
I'd like to think he is, particularly because of my Welsh interest.
Immigrant.
I'd like to think that he's hitting form at the right time, as you'd hope players would, to be in form going into the major championships. It's taken him a while. He's gone from not playing at all, really, at Real Madrid, being an outcast, being just pushed aside and go on the golf course, please, to now having to reintegrate himself into the English style, which is different to every other major league in Europe, and become the focal point for this Tottenham side, because Kane's kind of been given a deeper role. We can see that with his assist this season. Son can score, but again is also a deeper role more often than not. And then you want Bale playing that little bit further forward to finish these chances, and that he seems to be doing that now, where he can be the man to be relied on. We all know the brilliance he's got in front of goal. We all know the brilliance he's got on the ball anyway. It's just taken a minute for Jose Mourinho to get him to the standard he wants him to be. He's done a very similar thing with Dele Alli, to be fair, where he's taken him out of the team, watched him in training, watched him in little matches, probably with the under-23s and stuff, where there's less stress on them. And then they come back into the start 11 eventually, and they're proving why Jose Mourinho didn't get rid of them. Because he doesn't get rid of, most of the time, he doesn't get rid of players without a reason, without seeing something that he can work with. So clearly there's a reason those have stuck around and are now reaping the benefits of their hard work.
100%. And we might as well mention Harry Kane. I mean, he's got an absolute belter in this game from outside the box, first time. I mean, he's a joke at the minute. I think it's 42 goal involvements in about 30-odd games.
That's ridiculous.
He's obviously going to captain England at the Euros should he stay injury-free. How good is he at the minute? I mean, there's always rumours of him leaving to go and win trophies, but with Tottenham in a Carabao Cup final, still in the Europa League, still in the hunt for a Europa League place, or maybe even at push the last top 4 place, has he still got enough at Tottenham to fight for? And I don't envisage him moving anytime soon either.
Harry Kane needs to prioritise one thing. He needs to either prioritise a legacy or winning trophies. What does he want to look back on at the end of his career? Does he want to look back on medals and silverware, or being a club legend at Tottenham, top goal scorer, and everything that comes with that, and being, go on to an ambassadorial role and whatever, which he probably will do anyway, because you look at players that spend a long time at a club and be successful, they always go back to that main club. For me, and if it came down to me, and modern football, with the lack of sentimentality there is, I'd say go elsewhere, win trophies, be a success, and then come back. Even under Jose Mourinho, there doesn't seem to be a winner's mentality at Tottenham. They just seem to be happy to be the plucky underdog, someone that's just going to be in the final, be happy to be there. And, they've got a chance against City, but come on, we know City turn it up in finals. It's Guardiola. They're silverware at the end of it, and it is the City competition.
They love the Carabao Cup, don't they?
Yeah, it is theirs to win or theirs to lose. Sorry, every year. So, I don't see them winning that. And for me, I think he could be even better on an even higher level at another club, which is going to provide him with the chance to win a trophy and consistently be in the Champions League. Spurs can't do that anymore. They can't say for certain they're going to be a Champions League club, not with the amount of sides in the Premier League that are capable of being in that top four. No side can go into any season saying we're definitely going to be in the top four, and that's where I think he's got to think really hard about his future.
Yeah, I think, Tottenham, Harry Kane and Tottenham, it's always been linked with him moving away, and Madrid, Man United, just two clubs to name a few that have been linked with him. But I think it gets to a point now where it's very unlikely he will go. But I think he needs to win trophies because, like I said, we all know he's a bagsman, and he can break goal scoring records in a season. He may, who knows, break Shearer's goal scoring record, but we have to wait and see what happens with that. But I think he needs to get his hands on some trophies, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. But just quickly on Crystal Palace, before the stream, Villa Morgan mentioned this, and if he was still on, obviously we get him to talk about a bit more. But Roy Hodgson, I think his contract run ends up in the summer. A bit of talk about possibility of Eddie Howe coming into this job and taking over from Roy Hodgson. And do you think this would be a big project for someone like Eddie Howe? We know he's got Premier League experience with Bournemouth, but do Palace need a little bit of a rebuild? You look at the likes of Zaha, obviously a fantastic player, but getting on a bit. Townsend getting on a bit. Benteke, Cahill, Guaita in goal. They've got a lot of aging players. So is Eddie Howe the man for Palace? And, do you see Roy Hodgson even leaving?
I've mentioned this a couple of times. I'm watching Palace. Managers and play and the sides they manage, they do seem to be quite similar. If you're an older manager, you like older players. Younger manager, you like younger players. You look at the Palace squads, and compared to the rest of the Premier League, their average age is something easily above 30 at the moment. Most of the Premier League is below 27, 28. So they're in a bit of a different situation to most of the other clubs. And you can see that in the way they play, that they don't need to be a younger side because they don't have the same energy. Even with a player like Iberi Eze, he doesn't run through the lines like he should. He doesn't. There were times in the Manchester United game he could have made one run and split that back four, but he just kind of holds off, waits for the ball, and then when he gets the ball, there's three players on him straight away. So if a manager like Eddie Howe came in, which I do think is realistic, because Palace have been stuck in this rot, really, where they're happy to be mid-table, they're happy to be the Stoke. They'll take a couple of points off the bigger sides, they'll beat the teams that they need to beat, stay in the league, and they'll get enough points to be comfortably safe, and that'll be their season done and dusted. For me, that wouldn't be good enough as a fan. You want to see your side do the best it can every year consistently. Eddie Howe would do that. We saw it at Bournemouth up until everything just kind of capitulated at once. He was able to manage the put out fires, get them the points they needed. They had shock results, but they did it consistently. And I think, what was it, ninth in their second or third season? They overachieved. And if Palace overachieved, that's a European season. So a manager like him probably is what they need at the moment.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see what does happen with Roy Hodgson, because obviously at the minute, he looks like the guy that's always going to keep him up and keep him in the Premier League. It just depends on what Palace's ambitions are going to be going forward. Is it always going to be just stay in the Prem, or is it going to be, do you know what, can we push to mid-table, and then in 2 to 3 years can we push for a European spot? So I think it could be interesting to see what happens with Roy Hodgson in the summer. And like we said, you got names being thrown about like Eddie Howe, possibly Chris Wilder, Frank Lampard, just to name a few, that are all, pretty much out of a job at the minute and could come into that job and possibly do well. We'll move on to the next result. I'll let you speak about this one. I didn't watch it, but feel free to have your say. Chelsea 2, Everton 0. Ancelotti back at Stamford Bridge, and you beat him and claimed 3 points.
It was an interesting one from kind of everything that happened before the game and then the final whistle. Ancelotti went into it and said, we're competing with Chelsea. This is a game we need to win, or, show that we can compete with the sides that are also challenging for top 4. Come full time, he's going, we can never compete with Chelsea. They've got more quality than us. And that was evident through the 90 minutes. Everton didn't create enough. Chelsea created a lot. And the big change, I'll kind of focus on the Chelsea side of things, because that was where the game was won. Everton didn't lose this game. Chelsea won it. And it was won with Kai Havertz in the number 9 position. It's the first time we've seen him there in a Chelsea shirt, and it worked because he's more mobile than Giroud, with a similar height and a better first touch than Tammy Abraham. He's the perfect man for that, what Thomas Tuchel called today the 9 and 10 role. He doesn't want him behind the ball. He wants him constantly in front, and we saw it with the eventual own goal for Ben Godfrey, the handball goal that was ruled out, which kind of hit this area, and there was a big debate about it, and then the eventual penalty that made it 2-0. It was every performance under Tuchel has got better and better, bar a couple. Atletico Madrid, solid defensively, got the result in the end. The Liverpool game, played to perfection, got the ball over the top a couple of times, and that was what was needed to break down the lines. This game, again, playing it through the lines, getting our exciting players on the ball with a change of personnel. People went into this game going, why did he drop Mason Mount? Why has he dropped? I think Kante was rested for this game as well. I think, was it Chris? There was Rudiger was also rested. Why is he making these changes to a solid side? I also think Chilwell was rested after the Liverpool game. There was a lot of wholesale changes, and still every player that came in didn't look like they made the team perform worse. Mason Mount, who I've said on countless occasions, if he doesn't play well, Chelsea don't play well. That's just how we seem to be this season. He didn't play on Monday night. It was down to who was in that position. I can't remember, but there was the two that came in performed to the same level, and when he came on, it wasn't like it was night and day between the quality. So he's done what he came in to do. Tuchel. We've conceded 2 goals in 11 games now under him. There's not been any game where we've gone. We were constantly under the cosh, constantly conceding chances. The only goal, other than an own goal, we've conceded 1 goal. That says a lot, and we're 11 games unbeaten. So he's done what he's set out to do. And I don't see any team beating Chelsea at the moment. The Champions League, we've done half the job. We won away from home. Just got to get through the second leg. And in the Premier League, there's not many sides. Well, I don't think there's any side now in better form. So this can only keep on getting better.
Yeah, I think Tuchel coming in has definitely had a positive impact on Chelsea with your unbeaten run. So he seems to be doing a smashing job at the minute. You mentioned Champions League there. 1-0 up against Atletico. You obviously got second leg coming up, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. So
Wednesday.
very shortly on Wednesday. What's your aspirations for Chelsea this season? Obviously, I think we mentioned this when Lampard got sacked and Tuchel come in. I think it was then just, close the gap, see if you can break into that top four. You're there now. You're in the top four. Is it go and get third now where Leicester are? Is it even go and catch Man United? Or is it stay in that top four and go deep into the Champions League? And are you staying in the FA Cup as well? Or
Yeah, we've got Sheffield United in the quarters.
So is it then go and win the FA Cup and deep into the Champions League and get top four? What's Chelsea's aspirations now, considering Tuchel's coming and had this influence, and you already 1-0 up against Atletico with an away goal?
I had a really negative response to Tuchel taking over. I said it on here. I was really unhappy with the treatment of Lampard and everything that happened in the lead up to the change of the guards at Stamford Bridge. Since Tuchel's come in, we've seen what a world-class manager does. He gets the players playing in a system no matter what. And even players that were out in the cold under Lampard, Rudiger, Alonso, he's got them playing on a level which we haven't seen really since Conte, particularly Alonso. My aims for the rest of the season, I've had, whether it's biased, but in the Champions League, the only two teams I see that could give Chelsea a game and probably beat Chelsea are City and Bayern Munich. Spanish sides are struggling. Juventus are out, so that's Porto through. Borussia Dortmund aren't. I can't see them getting much further than quarterfinals. PSG, they could give us a game, but we know it was interesting what Tuchel said, because Thiago Silva came out and said, I feel less pressure in the Champions League in London than I ever did in Paris. And Tuchel says in an interview following that, well, yes, that's true, because in Paris, we were expected to win the league. We were expected to win all the league cups. So then when we come into the Champions League, that's the one where people go, well, you need to win this one because you're expected to win everything else. There's more pressure on them after playing the max amount of games anyway. So they're naturally more tired going into these matches, hence why they drop out of them earlier on. So you look at the rest of the competition, and City and Bayern Munich are the only two sides that are consistently on a level which you'd say is above Chelsea's at the moment. So I'd like to see us, I said at the start of the season, I'll say it again, semi-finals of the Champions League, that's what I'd like. If we got to the final, then there's only one thing in my mind, and that's to win it. FA Cup, win that. I don't think City will obviously go for it. United will go for it. I think Leicester are still in it. I'm not sure about Everton.
We've got Leicester, I think, next round.
Okay, so that's one of the big sides going out. But there's the sides that are near the top of the Premier League are still in the FA Cup. So there's going to be a few bumps in that. But I would like to win the FA Cup, particularly after getting so close last season. And then you come to the league. When Tuchel came over middle of January, we were 9th. And all I could think about was we're slowly slipping further and further down this league. When's it going to end? Now I'm looking at the league and thinking second is an option. A realistic option. We're only, 4 points behind United at the moment? So yeah, I think it's about 4 points. So the aim is to stay in the top four. We need United
4
to
points.
give us, we need a favour from United on, I think it's Saturday or Sunday against West Ham to help us extend that gap, because currently they've got the game in hand, which would take them back above Chelsea if they won it. But yeah, top four, win the FA Cup as far as we can in the Champions League. And having this world-class manager, because that's what he's proven to be since he's come in, has just flipped the switch in players that we didn't see under Lampard. There's a ruthless mentality. Ripping Hudson-Odoi off after 30 minutes of being on the pitch against Southampton, really putting his mark on. We see things that we never saw under Lampard. We lose the ball now, and there's 2, 3, 4 players all pushing to get the ball back. when we defend, there's a system to the defence. The wing backs drop back, the midfield is in the straight line. When we attack as a unit. Mason Mount is better than he's ever looked. Every player knows their role inside out, and it just looks like a proper team again.
I think you've definitely now got the squad depth to go into multiple competitions and go deep, because I think previously, well, when Lampard was manager, you looked at likes of Alonso, Rudiger, players like that, and they weren't getting a look in. And if they did come in, you possibly think, well, you know, are they performing to the likes of, say, Chilwell and Thiago Silva and players like that? Whereas now, anyone that comes in seems to be playing a pretty decent standard.
Now we're thinking, do we even want Thiago Silva back in the sides? This back three of Christensen, Rudiger and Azpilicueta, with Zuma coming in and out as required. Thiago Silva's still out injured. He's just been ruled out for tomorrow's game against Leeds. He had a setback in training this week. But honestly, he's come into that centre role, which is currently being occupied by Christensen. And I don't know if he's on merit. You don't drop Christensen, because in every game he's played under Tuchel, Chelsea conceded 0 goals. The only goals that have been conceded is when he's not been in the side. So, and he was a player, another one which I said, if he comes back in, I worry, and I've said it a few times on here, I don't like Christensen. He's proved me wrong, and I will.
Don't tell Lewis that. Do not tell Carefree Lewis G that. He'll be ripping his hair out.
Well, that's what but now I'll hold hands up quite honestly and say he's proved me wrong, and I'm quite glad he has. He's arguably one of he is one of the best players in this Chelsea side now. He just commands that back five.
Do you think? I think we're in a similar position with Cavani, to be honest. And obviously, you got Thiago Silva. I know he's 2 years older. I want to say something like that. Thiago Silva, obviously, he's not playing at the minute due to injury. Same with Cavani, injured at the minute. And then when he comes back in, you could argue that, like you said, he doesn't just walk straight into that team, which he probably would have done under Lampard previously. Yeah. Do you see him staying on next season? Do you see him going elsewhere? Do you think the experience is key to having that dressing room still?
He has, like you say, he's got the experience. He's won trophies in France, in Italy, and he'll probably win trophies in England, because that's what Chelsea inevitably do. I think talks have been reopened to get a contract across the line. Tuchel knows him from Paris, so there's a relationship there. And we'd be stupid not to take it up. His family are happy in London and seem to be hinting and making all the right noises that he's going to stay. And no matter his age, I think there are a few players that are proving this season, Ibrahimovic and even Giroud, age is just a number. If you can still perform to that level, you're still young enough. We normally say if you're good enough, you're old enough. But in this case, if you're good enough, you're young enough. So it's good to have that healthy competition. You know, we've got Zuma, we've got Thiago Silva. The player I'd really like to see come back to Chelsea is Fikayo Tomori.
Well, and also just add another spanner into work, because you've still got Malang Sarr on loan at Porto, I believe.
If we want to add to the list, we've got Malang Sarr, who's now a Champions League quarter-finalist and looked solid in the bits I saw against Juventus, playing with 10 men. If we're going down this rabbit hole, Mark Guehi is on loan at Swansea. That's 5 centre-backs in reserve that we've got that can. I know Tomori could be staying at Milan.
Do you think any of them possibly coming back influences Thiago Silva extension or a possible sale of a defender in January? Not January, in the summer.
Depends what Tuchel wants. He's already specified that he still wants to blood the youth. He doesn't want to change that philosophy that started Chelsea under Lampard. But he also wants to have that correct mix. And Tomori is more than likely staying in Milan. As gut-wrenching as that is, and it's another young player that we've made a mistake on, but he's playing well and he's playing fundamentally, and he wasn't doing that in London, and he's already said he's enjoying his time. So he's probably going to stay there. Guehi's proving this season he's too good for the Championship. So many Swansea fans and other Championship fans are saying, why has he come back for a second season? He's ruining our strikers effectively. And then you've got the two that are still at Chelsea in Zuma and Thiago Silva. Do you need 3 centre backs in reserve? Possibly not. So,
what do you do with what do you do with Malang Sarr next
Malang
season? I mean,
Sarr.
he's having a great season at Porto.
The aim with Malang Sarr was we all knew straight away he was going to arrive and then go again. This was the deal. As soon as he was signed, he wasn't going to play for Chelsea this season. He was going to go straight back out on loan. He's gone to a side which compete at the right end of their league and they're competing well in the Champions League. There's no reason to say he can't walk into the Chelsea side and start next season. So
that's what I'd be asking.
I'd actually forgotten about him until I watched him on Tuesday night against Juventus. So I thought, oh, we have still got this young player we signed in the summer. Yeah, I would be willing to say actually Thiago Silva might step back and say, put me in a role or keep me as a player coach rather than an out-and-out player. Because you don't want to sell any of these players. Zuma's still only 25, 26. Malang Sarr's below the age, I think he's 23. Yeah, he's young. You know, they're all good young players.
Yeah, I think you got great scope there for defenders, and I think you know a couple of decisions may need to be made on them. So yeah, be interested to see what does happen with them.
We still need to renew Christensen's contract. He runs out at the end of this year. So there's still a couple deals in-house that need to be done.
Yeah, no, definitely. If you are watching, as always, please list anything in the comments you do want us to talk about. Make sure you're liking the videos. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. Trying to hit 50 subs. So I think we're about 10, 11 away now. So please help us get to that. We'll move on from Chelsea and Everton. The other game, which we haven't mentioned, is West Ham 2, Leeds 0. As we know, West Ham are doing fantastically well. And I think, you know, fair play to David Moyes and West Ham for the players they brought in and the style they're playing. To sort of wrap up the stream and to end it off, we're going to do our predictions for this week, well, tonight and the weekend games. We've already done Newcastle Villa. We did that when Villa Morgan left. And Morgan will come straight back to you because it's Leeds v Chelsea. What's your quick-fire score predictions on these?
I made a prediction on the Chelsea app. 2-0 Chelsea.
Particular goal scorers, or?
I said Havertz would get a goal. I think he's got the confidence after Monday night, and Werner possibly, Mount. You know, any of our front three at the moment.
Decent shout. I'll go for a Chelsea win. I'll go 2-1 just to make it interesting. I think Leeds are an absolute madman to try and put a score prediction on because you don't know whether they're going to score 4, concede 4, score 1, concede 1. Like it's a nightmare. So I'll go with a Leeds goal because they didn't score against West Ham, but I do think you will win this game. The Sam Allardyce derby coming up next. We've got Crystal Palace versus West Brom.
Isn't every game a Sam Allardyce derby? Wasn't the last one a Sam Allardyce derby?
I don't know. Is he managed Man United and Man City at some point in his career or something? Thoughts on this one? I mean, I'll go quite quickly with this one. Do you know what? I could see like a 0-0, 1-1 here. I don't think it'd be too extravagant, or even a 1-0. Do you know what? I'll go 1-1 just quickly. I'll go 1-1.
I'm going to go 1-0 West Brom.
I was thinking of playing that one, but I think Palace might just nick a goal.
I think that certain players, I don't really know West Brom's name, but they've got this black player with the blue hair. I don't know his name.
Diagne, I think.
Yeah, but he seems to be playing well. I know Chelsea don't need Conor Gallagher is making passes that some of the players aren't seeing particularly. But they've got a couple players in there, and Maitland-Niles now on loan from Arsenal, who do seem to be pushing them up the right position. And West Brom fans have said if we'd had these signings and Sam Allardyce at the start of the season, we probably wouldn't be in this position. So, yeah, I can see them nicking a 1-0.
Just quickly on that, Conor Gallagher next season back at Chelsea. Do you think another loan move will happen, or do you think he could be in and around the first team?
Well, he had Charlton and Swansea last season, didn't he, in the Championship, and that kind of moved him from the bottom to the top. Then West Brom, bottom of the Premier League. The next move has to be the first team at Chelsea because we're not going to loan him to an Everton like we did with Zuma because they're too close to us now, and we're not going to loan him to a Tottenham or an Arsenal because they'll see that as like derogatory almost. So the next stage is Chelsea first team, and that for me that's next season. You look at Billy Gilmore; he's in and around first team regularly these days, and all the other young players that came through last season are all making permanent berths for themselves in the first team. So yeah, back in the first team.
Good stuff. Everton v Burnley. I'm gonna go 2-1 Everton. I think Burnley are always going to be dangerous with a long ball or something, and I think Everton need to bounce back, so I think they'll win this 2-1.
I was going to say, 3-1 Everton. Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison.
He's gone big with 3 goals. Fulham v Man City. I think Scott Parker will very much be praying that they get something out of this at home, so you never know. I was just about to say City coming off a loss against United, but both teams coming off a win. I'm gonna go 3-1 City. I think they're just rampant going forward, especially against a team like Fulham. It might benefit them a bit more. But I think Fulham, they're dangerous. If they could nick a goal early on and then try and hang on, but eventually crumble a little bit. Or they might just nick one at some point in the game. So I'll go 3-1 City.
It's tough because both sides are in good form. I don't think Fulham lost the game in February. And obviously City have recently had that defeat against United. So I'm going to go 2-1 City. But it wouldn't shock me if Fulham got at least a point out of this. Just because of how well they've been playing and the momentum they seem to have going up the league.
Yeah, no, completely agree. That wouldn't shock me either. Southampton, Brighton. Southampton coming off a win, Brighton coming off a loss. I'm going to go... I want to say I'll go 2-0 Brighton. I don't think Brighton will score. Again.
You mean 2-0 Southampton then?
Yeah, sorry, 2-0 Southampton. I don't think Brighton will score.
It's tough because, again, Southampton have only beaten Sheffield United in the last 2 months since losing to United 9-0. So they can't, apart from the Chelsea game, they haven't then got a point out of any other game. Brighton, like we said earlier, can't create, so 0-0.
Oof, 0-0. First one. Leicester, Sheffield United. Potentially the first game for Sheffield United without Chris Wilder in about 5-6 years. Do you think there'll be a positive effect? Like we always know when a manager gets sacked or a new one comes in, there's a little bit of a rebound effect on that. Do you think that can happen should obviously Wilder does leave his post as manager, or do you think it will take a little bit of time before that possibly rebound effect happens at Sheffield United?
They need the new guy to come in to get the full rebound effect. Because even though we don't know if it's officially confirmed that he's out of the job at the moment, but if he is out of the job, it will still be a member of his coaching staff that takes the reins. So it's still going to be a very similar Sheffield United performance. Saying that those have been improving recently, so it wouldn't be the worst. And we know that over the course of the season, even over the course of last season, 1 goal either way was what won or lost Sheffield United matches. And it's just been the case that this season that 1 goal has been against them rather than for them, which it was a lot of the time last season.
I'm going to go 2-1 Leicester. I'll join you. 2-1 Leicester. I think 2-1 is a very common scoreline in a lot of these score predictions. It's very hard to veer away. It's very hard to veer away from it. You find that, believe me, after so many weeks of doing this, I always want to say 2-1 in games. I have to try and spice it up a bit. I was going to say 2-2 but I can't see Sheffield United getting 2. Yeah, that's my issue. I can't see them getting 2. Next one. Do you know what I'm going to say? The biggest game of the weekend. North London derby, Arsenal v Tottenham.
It's the biggest game on
obviously-
paper. It's not the actual biggest game.
Yeah. Yeah, biggest game on paper. That's what I was inclined to say.
Yeah.
Biggest game on paper. I'm guessing you're hoping both teams can lose in this game. So possibly a draw you might go for here. Do you know what? I'm going to go plain and simple. I'm going to go 2-0 Tottenham. I know Arsenal have a thing for pulling a trick result out of the bag, like they did against you, and like they do when they beat us and they draw with teams, etc. But I think Tottenham at the minute are in some form, and Arsenal are still hit and miss, and draw with Burnley and stuff like that. I think Tottenham beat Burnley 4-0. It's like I'm going to go 2-0 Tottenham, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bale scored.
I've got to prioritise, put what I actually think can happen over what I want to happen in this game. And what I want to happen is Arsenal to obliterate Tottenham, despite my loathing for both clubs. If Arsenal were to win, it would just make the top four a bit safer for Chelsea, given the run Tottenham are on. But then building on that, Tottenham are on this run. They look like they're, with the momentum that West Ham are showing, Chelsea are showing. So I can only see this going one way, and 3-0 Tottenham.
Well, we've got a comment in saying 7-0 Arsenal. So if that happens, and if you bet on that, you will win yourself a hefty amount of cash. And fair play to you if that comes off. Run
down to the bookie, my friend.
Mate, Oscar lad, get down there. 7-0 Arsenal. You must be on cuckoo land at the minute. I don't think Arsenal could score 7 in 4 games, let alone 1. So yeah. Then I guess you mean this is probably the biggest game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Man United v West Ham. I'm going to be honest, I'm not looking forward to this because a lot of injuries. Obviously, I'm not going to complain about them. I just would rather have Rashford and Martial and Pogba playing, even Van der Beek. But look, we're still going into this with some semi-decent form. I don't think we've lost a game in a few. We always draw or win. So I think it's nailed on. Ahmad starts with Martial's recent injury. You're looking at Dan James and Greenwood starting up front with him. Bruno's always going to play unless someone literally is pinning him down. He'll play with a broken leg, that lad. And then you're going to have Fred and McTominay, which isn't the worst. I mean, you've probably heard my frustration of the pair of them before.
No.
But West Ham are in very good form as well. So it's going to be so close, this one. But I'm always going to back United, and I'm going to go 2-1 Man United in this game. I'm going to go 2-1.
I'm going to go big scoring because I think that it could go one of two ways. It's either going to be incredibly cagey.
Lingard can't play either.
Can he not?
I don't think he can. I think...
Oh, yeah, it'll be loan agreement, won't it, that he can't play against parent club. I don't think that changed much. I still think West Ham are a good enough side to make up for that. They've got Lanzini and other players that can fill the gap. It can go one of two ways. It'll either be a really cagey 1-0, 0-0 performance, or it'll be what I want it to be, which is a 3-2 United.
I'll take that.
That's my prediction, and I just think that both sides have got enough going forward that they'll be able to break what have been quite solid defences recently on several occasions.
Mate, to be honest, if we win the game 1-0 and it comes off Ahmad's arse crack, that'd be perfect, to be honest. So that's fine by me. Couple more comments in. Oscar again said, "You wait. I'll wait. I'll wait for this 7-0 Arsenal win." And then Reese has said, "Mr. Page loves McFred. Look, there's a time and a place for McFred, okay?"
And it's not on the Premier League football pitch.
At the minute, yes. Because it's our only fit midfielders. But when you got Pogba and Van der Beek on the bench, it's like, so we'll let that slide. Multiple amounts comes out the years, and don't even get me started on Van der Beek. We'll be here for another 2 hours. Last game to predict: Wolves v Liverpool. Previously, Wolves have been a good team to possibly giant kill in a few games. A little bit inconsistent this season. I think they're obviously below 10th, so bottom half of the table. but they're always that team which you feel could spring up a half decent result against a good team. I don't know where, and with the way Liverpool are playing, like we've spoken about on this stream, you just don't know. You literally don't know. Like, Wolves could win this because I don't think Liverpool could score the way they're going at the minute. Like, or it could be a 0-0 draw. Like, I don't even know where to begin with this.
This season for Wolves feels like the transition season which we expected the first season back in the Premier League. Not this year. I think this year I personally expected them to mount a challenge for the top 4 in Europa League again, because that just seems to be their level. I don't really know if they've had injuries. I don't follow them close enough to know that for definite. But I do know that when it comes to it, they've got the quality in that side. Neves, Coutinho, Fabio Silva's good enough. Going towards the back, Patricio's a brilliant keeper. Cody, Nelson Semedo, Adama Traore, Pedro Neto's been exceptional this season. So Wolves have got enough to really threaten Liverpool. What we saw on, I think it was Wednesday night, from Liverpool against RB Leipzig was RB Leipzig didn't threaten at all, apart from one attack, and Liverpool looked shaky. If you get that ball over the top, in behind the Liverpool defence, they're not happy. They're not in their happy place, and they'll panic, and anything can happen. So, and like we say, Liverpool going forwards, Mane, Firmino, Salah, that's not firing like it normally does. Wolves can take advantage.
I think is Jota back from as well.
He was on the bench and came on late on against RB Leipzig. So
a goal against his old club. I'm just saying.
It wouldn't be a surprise. 2-1 Wolves.
Do you know what? 2-1 Wolves. That's what I'm going for. You read my mind. We've got another comment
here. You'll be erased.
I see Fred at Cam ever again. I'm not watching it. So yeah, that wraps up the predictions. Morgan, thank you for dropping them in and joining us. Before we go, I've not worn this shirt for no reason. Rangers are champions. Do you know what? I can't have it on this colour. I've got to change the colourway because I'm not having it. That's better. Right. Rangers are champions 55 times. They're unbeaten still. They've won the league and they're still unbeaten. And they're in Europe still.
I mentioned this watching football last night. I was looking at the British sides left in the Europa League. I could see Rangers going deep into the Europa League because they've got this momentum which Celtic have never had. They've been unbeaten in the league, but they've never correlated it to a good European campaign where they don't lose in the group and then they don't lose in the round of 32 and they draw away in their first leg. So this could be the year where Rangers really show that aside from the Scottish League can perform. And at the end of the day, it's cup football. Anything can happen.
Mate, anything can happen. Couple more comments in. Pete, long time no see if this is the right guy. Wander the left foot, this lad. Up the Rangers indeed. And Rangers versus Spurs Europa League final. You'd love that.
Well,
mate.
I'm back in Rangers then, aren't I?
Well, Rangers in the Europa League, like you said, they could go deep in it because they played. I know they have Royal Antwerp. They battered them in the end. I mean, the first leg was unbelievable. I was watching it and, cool, blimey, that was something to watch. But then obviously I think they totally obliterated them in the second leg. An away goal against Slavia Prague, who beat Leicester. Good team, beat Leicester.
Going to Ibrox.
You do. Yeah, you do fancy Rangers to get through, and I said if United get through, or even the draw when we got AC Milan, I said, Rangers, what a game that would be. United v Rangers or Tottenham v Rangers. Just Rangers could go really deep, and they have. A Scottish team hasn't really. I know we'll bring Celtic into this as well, but they have not many of them have gone deep into a sort of European competition. I mean, Champions League is long gone for the pair of them, I think, in a while. But even the Europa League, Celtic, I mean, we see how they did this season, rock bottom of their group. And, Rangers are unbeaten in the league, unbeaten in Europe. They're doing magnificently, and you fancy them to go deep and to possibly beat Slavia Prague, who, like we said, beat Leicester, who, as we know, aren't no mugs.
Well, there's a reason they won the league in the manner of which they did, and it's not all Celtic's fault. It's not all the fact that Celtic bottled 10 in a row. It's also the fact that Rangers have had the consistency to constantly perform to a high enough level to not lose, to win, to at least draw every match is something in itself. And to then carry that into Thursday night, again, takes some doing. So there's no reason to say they can't play out the rest of this season going unbeaten in the league. And if they do that, having got the away goal against Slavia Prague, there's no reason to say the quarterfinals is an option. And what they are showing is that just because you play a Thursday night, which has happened so many Premier League sides over the years, Burnley, Arsenal, Tottenham, so many of them have struggled as a result of playing on a Thursday night. Rangers have come across and gone, well, we've just won our league unbeaten. What's your excuse with a lesser squad? Let's not beat around the bush. Spurs have won the Europa League. They've proven that they can compete on two fronts well enough, and I can't see a reason to say they'll not get through to the quarterfinals.
I think Rangers have got as good a chance as anyone at the minute on current form. They've got to be up there with some of the best teams in Europe in current form, having not lost a game in all season. So the past 5 games, their form must be through the roof. Pete's back again with Spurs winning Europa League. I said
Spurs
it wouldn't surprise
trophy in 13 years.
I said at the beginning of the season, it wouldn't surprise me if Mourinho did similar to what he did at United, and that's when he realised he wasn't going to get top 4, so he binned a lot of the Premier League games off. I think we drew loads of shoddy games, but we won the Europa League, so got Champions League football. But I think now it's a lot more competitive than I think when we won it. I think you look at it now, you got United, Rangers, Arsenal are still in it, which is obviously a derby for Tottenham, so don't know about that one. The old Bale is starting to come back, apparently.
It's the end rewards of winning the Europa League that gets teams interested now, because it just used to kind of be, oh, you won the Europa League, well done. Now it's you win the Europa League, you're in the Champions League, guaranteed. No qualification, you're in the group stage. And that really entices the English clubs, because particularly for Arsenal, who aren't getting European football through the league, that's not happening this year. But they could get into the elite competition through the back door by winning the Europa League. And it excites a Manchester United because they could take a slot away from someone else, like we did with Arsenal in the final in 2019. It excites a Tottenham because they're probably not going to get top 4 outright this season, so they can sneak in through the back door. And then for a Rangers or anyone else, they've still got Mulder and Granada in the competition. For one of those, it's a chance to get into a competition which would be pretty difficult for them to get into normally.
100%. Pete's also said Ryan Kent should be going to the Euros.
I mean,
don't know if he's in the conversation to be in as
well.
Connor Goldson. Who else have you got in there? God. Mate, could you imagine James Tavernier, if he was injury-free, starting right back, taking pens and free kicks? So, yeah, I don't know about Ryan Kent. He's having a good season, but I think Tavernier, if he was injury-free, you could even argue he could be in contention for an England call-up, but he's obviously injured at the minute. So, yeah, that is all for the minute. Just quickly on Rangers, 55 times. Gerrard, we mentioned it earlier with Liverpool. Do you think it's inevitable? Do you think it's only a matter of time before he goes to Liverpool? And how long? Do you think it's a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons? Do you think he goes to another club before he goes to Liverpool? Or is Rangers, I'm not saying Rangers are a small club, they're a massive club. But do you think he needs to go to somewhere in the Prem before he goes to Liverpool? Or do you think, can he go from Rangers to Liverpool? I know Lampard did it, but I think you'd be the first to say he probably needed a little bit more of a bigger club than Derby, but not so big as Chelsea, just to get more experience. Do you think Gerrard needs that other club, or can he go from Rangers to Liverpool? And do you think it'll be soon, or how long do you think?
Well, he's admitted it time and time again. His end dream is to be Liverpool manager. And as a former Liverpool player, you can't have a go at him for that. I'm sure any manager or any former player of any club that goes into management, they want to manage that club because of what they did for them and the feelings they have for that club. Gerrard is conveniently, his contract at Rangers runs at the same time that Jurgen Klopp does at Liverpool. And he's learning on the job, like I said earlier, away from the English limelight, so he can make mistakes that would be absolutely rinsed in English media, which we saw from Lampard. He had those mistakes, right in front of the Sun, who were going to write the plastered headline. So I could see him coming straight to England and going straight to Liverpool, because he's won a trophy. That's enough for me to suggest that he's ready for a top job.
Yeah, and I don't think you're too far away then. Do you think, am I right in saying that Klopp and Gerrard's contract's up, not the end of this season, but the end of next, I think it's the end of next season.
2024. It's a while.
Quite a way away then. So that's 2-3 years away. Do you think it will be then, or do you think the more time will be needed?
It depends on Liverpool.
Does it depend on Rangers as well? Does it depend on how he does with Rangers, or do you think this one title at the minute is enough, or does he have to keep performing at a high level?
One title for Rangers won't be enough. For Rangers, they'll want to keep him to they want this decade to be Rangers' decade, like the last decade, Celtic decade.
Yeah.
And so they'll want to keep hold of him because they've got a good thing going here. They've got the success. Liverpool, this spiral that they're on at the moment, this could continue, and we could see the relationship deteriorate between Klopp and fans and FSG and the players. And he could be out of a job, and then a new guy comes in, and they're happy with him, and Gerrard's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's still at Rangers. So I think it comes down to, how does he do at Rangers? Does he continue the success? And what happens at Liverpool? Do they move on from Klopp, or do they see it out until Gerrard becomes available? I wouldn't like to call it, but I'd like to see Gerrard succeed at Rangers first, properly.
Agree, 100%. I mean, rivalry aside, Man United and Liverpool, he's done a fantastic job there, and to go unbeaten at the minute, I think you mentioned, do you think they will do it whole season unbeaten? Obviously, I think if we take Europe out of that, I think domestically, a whole season unbeaten, I think they've got to play Celtic again. That's their next game in a week or two's time after the international break, I think. Do you think they can go a whole season unbeaten? Do you think they can do all competitions a whole season unbeaten in Europe as well?
Not in Europe. I do think that inevitably someone in the Europa League will come up against them and haven't too much quality, whether it's a Premier League side or our league side, any of them. But in the league, there's no reason why they can't. They've beaten every team, or they've not lost to every team so far. So why not? Yeah, they'll get the whole season unbeaten.
I love that. I love to hear it. And Glasgow Rangers champions. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time
just
coming.
Like London. Just like London, Glasgow is again blue.
Glad you didn't say Manchester, or else you would not have been appearing on this podcast ever again. Pete's come back and spoke about Ryan Kent. He deserves a chance, at least for what he's done this season. And personally, I reckon he walk into any Europa League team in the Prem. I'm guessing that's Ryan Kent you're still talking about. But I guess Kent and Tavernier as well. Do you think they could walk into most teams in the Prem, Kent and Tavernier?
Of that level, yeah, they're proven, aren't they, that they can be a good Europa League player. So why not? Why can't they go to a Leicester, a Wolves, an Arsenal, a Tottenham, and do well? Yeah, if you have success in the league as a player, Ryan Kent, Jason Tavernier, why not be in the conversation to be in the Euro squad? They've performed better than some English players in the Premier League this season, so there's no reason that Gareth Southgate shouldn't be looking at these players.
Do you think we see either of them in the Prem soon? Just to end up on. Do you think we see? Do you think we see him?
I think we do. I think we see Ryan Kent soon because I've watched him a couple of times and he's got the quality.
Pete Keeney says we could see him at Chelsea. So, do you want a Kent or a Tavernier?
Yeah. If they're good enough,
mate,
if they can make
League
squads.
Do you know what I actually seen when United were linked with a right back. I've seen a lot of people say Tavernier should be our starting right back at United, and I'm thinking, what's Wan-Bissaka done that badly to not start at Man United anymore? I mean, bloody hell, should be starting for England. So, yeah. But anyway, we'll talk England a lot later on down the year. We're going to do a massive show for England about predicted squads. We're going to do our own squads and etc. We're going to do a big one. So, yeah. He's also just added to please you, Morgan, that Hudson-Odoi is the GOAT. So, there you go. That is going to wrap up today's stream. Morgan, as always, thank you very much for giving us your time and coming on. It's been a pleasure, mate.
Pleasure to be on. I'll be back. But no, good chat.
Mate, always a pleasure. Before we do end the stream, as always, please, if you have enjoyed it, make sure you like the video, subscribe as well, trying to hit 50 subs. I think we're 10 away, so if we can get there, that'd be fantastic. Make sure to share the video, comment anything you want us to talk about in the comments, and obviously when we do go live, list that in the comments as well, because we will talk about them like we have done tonight. But as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Chelsea Morgan and Villa Morgan. In fact, I did receive a message off in terrible and toothless first half from Villa. So yeah, I can envisage how that's going. So our thoughts with him during this tough time. Exactly, mate. But thank you for watching, Morgan. Thanks, mate. And we shall see you again next week for another review and preview and all your comments as well on all the football news. Thank you for watching.